Alright, hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Earth's Mightiest Comics. This is a show where every episode we talk about some of the new comics that we've been reading lately, and we give you our opinions on them, letting you know whether we like them or whether we did not enjoy them. So, this episode is another one of those monster episodes we're going to have to split into more than one recording. It'll be, again, seamless in the edit. You guys won't even know where we cut things. But, my point there is there's a lot to talk about today. Some of the stuff we're going to be talking about this week includes, as always, a bunch of Blood Hunt stuff, new issues of Daredevil, the Department of Truth is back after like a 1.5-year long hiatus. The start, kind of build up into Absolute Power has started. Some Ghost Machine books, somebody is killing children, sacrifices, void rivals, all this good stuff. But we're going to start out with the wrap-up to one of the most recent DC event. So not Absolute Powers, that's just starting, but the wrap-up to House of Brainiac, which takes place in a couple issues. We're going to talk about all three in this first block here, starting with Action Comics number 1066. This is the penultimate chapter to House of Brainiac, written by Joshua Williamson. The artist is Rafa Sandoval and Miguel Mendonça. And then we also have a backup story which is written by Joshua Williams still, and then the artist is Laura Braga. So this issue kind of is just, it's kind of a big fight, mostly. Superman starts out being kind of captured by Brainiac, but Lobo kind of busts in pretty quickly and is like, hey, Superman, sorry for betraying you and all that. I'm going to bust you out of here and we can fight Brainiac together. So there's kind of a big brawl, as per usual. Lots of fighting and stuff, and involving the Brainiac Queen as well. Essentially, the Brainiac Queen can only survive by consuming people, and particularly superpowers as well. Really helps her kind of get power. So big fight, but then John Kent shows up, or maybe it's Connor. I'm not actually sure. It's one of the two Superboys.
I think it's Connor's the one that has the telekinetic powers.
Yeah, probably. And I don't see John as actually being listed in the issue. So probably would be Connor. Yeah. So Connor shows up, Superboy, and he does a big power punch thing, and he kind of just wipes out all the power in the city. And as a result of that, the Brainiac Queen is not able to power herself up anymore and just pretty much dies. So then Brainiac and his family kind of pop up, and Brainiac seems to kind of mind control his family. I think that's kind of the implication, is because his son is and his wife is like, hey, we can be a family again, and he's like, oh yeah, maybe we should be. But then stuff in next issue happens that makes me think they're probably just mind controlled, because they don't seem to actually want to work with him. And so then the other part of it is that Lena gets implanted with Brainiac's knowledge, because she's kind of the only human who is able to, because she was brought up by Brainiac, which I think they go into in the backup story if I'm remembering correctly. So she was brought up by Brainiac. She's able to handle it better than any other kind of human would be, and she's smarter. She's got a bunch of intelligence. She's seemingly smarter than Brainiac. I think they kind of make reference of that.
Yeah,
where
I think he implemented his trophlevel into her.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah, and he's level 12 intelligence, and Lex keeps saying yeah, Lena, you don't have any limits on your intelligence. And so she kind of gets Brainiacified, and then her and Lex is kind of well, I'm gonna go and save Lena. And he puts on the Brainiac helmet and goes into the Brainiac computer consciousness thing. And that's pretty much where this issue ends. There's also a backup story. It's kind of just Lex and Lena talking and kind of fighting the mind Brainiacs and trying to kind of escape and everything. That's kind of all there is to that. So I think this is solid. The art looks fantastic, particularly in the main story. I don't love it as much in the backup story, but I think the art's good. The action's fine, although it is kind of just a lot of running around and kind of punching, wildly and nondescriptly, and it's just kind of a brawl. I think it's decent enough, but I do definitely think it's not the strongest part of this event. I do think though that it benefited, because this came out the same week as the final issue of this event, Superman 15. I don't think that was supposed to happen, but I'm kind of glad it did, because I think reading these back to back definitely helped. Whereas if this had been the only issue I read from this event this week, I think I would have felt a little bit less enthused about it. Even so, I don't think it was great. I do think it's definitely weaker than the final part. So I'm going to give this one a 7, I think. But decent, and I do appreciate that. I think it flowed well into the next issue.
No, yeah, I think this one was all right. Genuinely, it flowed so well into to Superman number 15 that I genuinely could not remember, it's just blurring for me, honestly.
It is for me as well. Yeah,
it's really blurring for me. So I was thankful you took over. I really couldn't remember what happened in this one and what happened in the other one. But yeah, it's just the big family brawl really. Lobo switching sides there, somehow survived the Brainiac Queen attack against the Zarnians. And so at first it was just Superman, Lobo, and then Kara, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And then that's when everybody else showed up when them three were starting to get overwhelmed. And Lex is fighting Brainiac mind to mind. And that's pretty much, without going too much into the next one, that's pretty much all that happened in this one. Yeah, just big brawl. Yeah, I gave it a 7 as well, honestly. I thought this one was fine. Genuine. Honestly, I think I would have liked it better if they were separated, actually.
Okay.
Just so I could separate the story a bit more.
Right.
The fact that I read this one and then instantly went into Superman, it's just it's blurring way too much for me.
Yeah. Well, all right, I guess we can head straight into Superman then, which is the actual finale to this event. Superman number 15, again, written by Joshua Williamson. The artist is Rafa Sandoval. Again, art is fantastic. Just throughout this entire thing, loved it, thought it was great. Clark is fighting Brainiac and stuff, and they also the rest of the Super family, they managed to get the bottled cities out of the Brainiac ship, including Kalu, I believe, and then we don't find this out till later, but they transport it with Lobo's help to just another planet that they just fill up with all these, small cities, and they're we'll find a way to make them bigger again later. So there's that. There's the fight with Brainiac. There's also the Lex side of it, where he and Lena are in Brainiac's kind of consciousness, and so Lex directly plugs himself into the hive mind so that he's able to erase all of Brainiac's knowledge. And so in doing so, Brainiac kind of just gives up the fight with Superman, because he's he's losing all his knowledge and everything. But while he's doing that, he delivers one final ominous monologue to Superman where he's like, hey, I've seen everything, and I know that you're gonna die, and you're gonna die soon, and there's some intense stuff going on here. And you're gonna lose all your powers and stuff, clearly referencing or building up to absolute power, which is starting the week after this issue dropped. And so so then Brainiac the ship explodes, all the Super family gets off the ship, and then the Brainiac Queen, before he blows up in the ship explosion, sends the Brainiac Queen to Earth, so that's how it's there for absolute power. And then we assume he dies. His body is not found though, so he's probably still alive. Yeah. As always, these characters never die. But then they all the Super family, they return to Earth, and Superman's like, you know what, Lex, I'm sorry for for thinking that you betrayed Earth again, and I think you're a hero now and all that stuff. And Lex is like, Lex, who's Lex? And he's completely lost all of his memory through going into the hive mind. That's where the issue ends. And then we do get a brief tease as well, because it's to be continued in absolute power. But then there's also a page with what I assume is Doomsday punching his way out of some cocoon thing. So
I don't know where he's at, honestly.
Yeah,
but
I don't either. But apparently that's getting resolved in fall sometime. They're gonna continue that story after absolute power. So I do think this is a much better chapter in the series. I think it's a very, very strong finale. I think the art looks great. I think the conversation between Clark and Brainiac right at the end was cool and good and interesting. I think the cliffhanger with Lex losing his memory and everything, I think that's cool and interesting. I am not personally that pumped for absolute power. It's a good creative team. I'm sure it'll be fine or good, but I just don't really find myself getting excited for it. And I actually have that with a lot of DC books, including this one, even though I like this series a lot. But I think as far as this issue goes, it concludes House of Brainiac very well. Yes. And I do think it sets things up fairly nicely for absolute power. I do wish that we had a little bit of time in between this event and absolute power, so that Superman could have another story arc in between. But regardless, since this was pretty much a Superman core event anyway, I'm not as bothered by it. But yeah, very strong conclusion. I think definitely a very solid way to end this event, and I think just generally a very solid event overall.
Yes, it was generally it didn't feel overwhelming, this event, like some other events. I think that's mostly because it was, like you said, just a Superman centric event, so it didn't feel as overwhelming as some other events can be. And I think it also ended very, very well. I think also the conversation that Superman had with Lobo at the very end as well, with them basically Lobo, not truly, but basically still counting him and Superman as the last of their kind, that's right, still held to their chests very proudly or whatever, even though at this point Lobo has his daughter, Superman has basically his super family, so not truly, but whatever. And then just Brainiac quote unquote death there. I don't know. I wouldn't mind honestly them killing Brainiac off and just like Brainiac Queen being like the new Brainiac or whatever. Genuinely wouldn't mind that just to give like a new character.
Sure.
Just
Maybe
some,
Brainiac
like,
is dead for now, but Brainiac just will be back eventually.
I
That's just
don't
how
see.
this stuff
Yeah,
goes.
I just especially with Brainiac and like himself, like with his like multiples and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I could never see him really dying.
Yeah.
But I
We also
think
didn't see the body, and that's the first rule of comics. You don't
yes,
see the body, they're still alive. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So but yeah, I think keeping him in the like the DL for now and just letting Brainiac Queen do her thing. I think he's like I think I would like that a lot. Just to give somebody, just at least give this new character a chance to like grow on people. And I know we're gonna get a lot of her in Absolute Power, so we'll see. But yeah, other than that, I thought there was a very, very good end of this series, and very good issue overall. So yeah, I gave it an 8.
I gave this one a 9. And but don't worry, we're not done with House of Brainiac just yet. Because we've got Power Girl to finish off the event.
Power Girl.
Power Girl number 10, written by Leah Williams. The artist is Eduardo Pansica. So if you listened to, I believe it was the episode right before we went on break, you would know that I fucking hated Power Girl issue number 9. I thought it was just really terrible. I don't think this is as bad, but I still don't think it's great. This is fine, I think. There's still stuff that bothers me so much about this. I think the writer here, I feel like, is treating the audience like we're all fucking idiots. Like, for instance, at the start, Power Girl's making an EMP to like wipe out the tech that the Zarnians have that like transforms things into metal things into like living things or whatever. And like they do that thing where they explain what an EMP is. And it's like, everybody who fucking reading this knows what an EMP is. You don't need to explain this every time. This happens a lot in movies, and it always drives me crazy. The audience knows what an EMP is now. We don't need to be constantly told what it is. So, they have a big fight with the Zarnian, and it's all Power Girl gives Crush the good Zarnian a pep talk, and it was so cliche and just generic pep talk stuff. And then there's a big fight. Crush is able to infiltrate the other Zarnians. I don't know why they let her in. That seemed like just such a dumb, contrived way to fix this.
They're like not the smartest Zarnians. It's definitely shown that they're not like the smartest, but like still, even for that was a very dumb move.
Yeah. I kind of like how Power Girl and Crush like rode the big dragon motorcycle. I thought that was kind of fun, I guess. But then so Crush brings the EMP in and shuts down the tech and everything. And then Power Girl shows up through the back, and she has saved the holiday girls and like gotten them out of there or something. When Power Girl comes in, it also does that thing I hate where she just exposits to Crush what she was doing while Crush was doing the MP. And it's like, Crush would already fucking know that. They would have discussed that ahead of time. They would have known that was the plan. That was, again,
it's the
clearly
audience.
I know, and that's why I fucking hate it. There's a better way to do that than just having her exposit it to Crush. We don't need to have her exposit it in a flashback. Just have just show it happening simultaneously. I don't know. But the fact that she just like the way that dialogue was written and her talking about how she got them out. That's the kind of stuff where it's just like, it makes me feel like Leah Williams, the writer, thinks that the audience are dumbasses. Because it's like, there's a better way to do that, than just like having Paige say it to Crush, who already knows, I don't know. And then they all like have some fun times and stuff. The Zarnians get killed by that robot lion thing. Yeah, so that kills all the Zarnians after Power Girl and Crush just leave them in the bar for Supercorp or Steelworks, I think it is actually, to come and pick them up.
I don't remember.
Yeah, and then they all just have a fun old chat, and they like go on a road trip together, and that's where it ends. They ride their motorcycles off into the sunset.
Crush and the Holiday Girls go on a road trip,
right.
not Power Girl.
Listen, I think this is fine. It's, again, like, the action I think is better here. It's, it's not like, it's paced in a way that is less nonsensical. So I think it is a better written issue than the last issue. However, the fact that the way that this series explains stuff to the audience, I just find to be very condescending. Like, we know, even if this is like, you could say like, well, maybe this series is aimed at kids. I don't think it is, but let's say that it is. Even still, I feel like some of the ways like the dialogue is written here is dumbing it down even for kids. Like, kids are smart enough to figure out this shit, I feel like, the plot devices here. So yeah, I don't think there's any excuse for how, like, blatantly expository the dialogue in this issue is. So that bothers me. But other than that, it's a totally fine issue. It wasn't like a real slog to get through. I just hate the way that it was kind of talking down to the audience, I feel.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think, right, like the EMP thing, she was explaining to Crush. That's why it was in there. I wish they would have kept this lion dude fucking dead, honestly. I don't know why they're bringing him back. Said that last time they showed him, too.
Yeah. Yep.
Didn't like it. The bar fight was honestly just like over-exaggerated. Like they were fighting, like her Power Girl and Crush, and then that one holiday girl that came in at the very end were fighting for so long, and it was literally resolved in 30 seconds when Power Girl just like used their super speed and trapped them all. I really don't understand that, why they like dragged that on for so fucking long. Fucking hell, what else? I didn't mind the whole Crush Power Girl conversation. I genuinely think they did a good job, like over these, like realistically, over the 3 issues. I'll give it 2 because we barely got Crush in that first Power Girl issue. Over the 2 issues, I felt like they did a pretty good job of developing Crush's character a bit more, so that she's differentiated from Lobo. You know, she actually cares, unlike Lobo.
Yeah.
I didn't know she was in the Teen Titans. That was
I didn't know that
in
either.
This one.
Yeah,
that was interesting for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, other than that, I think I didn't mind this one actually that much. I thought it was pretty all right. I have one issue with it, which is the fact that they mentioned specifically in this one Power Girl's trip to that weird ass dimension.
Oh, I forgot about that.
In those 2 issues.
Yeah, I made a note of that when I was reading it. I was like, man, I bet Sebastian's not happy they brought that back into play.
Specifically for that reason, I docked it a star.
Okay.
I had to.
Yeah.
So in the end, I gave it a 6.
I gave it a 5. And that also leads us into the question I have to ask you, Sebastian.
Yes.
Do you think that this is better, or this event was better or worse than Night Terrors?
Oh man, I forgot about this.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but we're back.
This little game we play, yeah.
I think Beast World was the last time we did this, so
yes, yeah.
Been a couple months, yeah.
And I think I think Beast World I said was better, if I remember correctly.
I think I also gave Beast World the edge over Night Terrors. I actually don't know if I agree with that looking back at it, but still, I
think you gave Night Terrors. I think you said Night Terrors is better.
Maybe I don't really remember, and I'm not gonna go back and listen to that episode, so we'll never know.
Well, I can tell you score. Like if we go by rating, I could tell you I know I've rated these a lot better than Night Terrors overall.
Okay,
but I want to say right because you have to look at it right core issue and tie-in. And for the most part, the tie-ins in this one, like, were for the most part pretty good. Like for me, the ones that weren't good were really just I guess okay, you keep the Green Lantern ones, right? Like really were those tie-ins like they did nothing.
I only count the backup ones as tie-ins because they said they were tie-ins.
Well, exactly, that's what I'm saying. But even those didn't really do anything.
Sure, but I am still counting them since they were marked as one.
No, I'm marking it too, but it's just like.
Yeah.
I feel like it did more for War Journal than it did for House of Brainiac, you know?
I don't know if I quite agree with that. The Guy Gardner stuff?
Yeah, because the entire in War Journal, what's his? Is it Kyle? I don't remember who it is that's talking to Guy Gardner.
Oh no, it's Cowlin Shepherd is
Cowlin Shepherd is talking to Guy Gardner, and he specifically says, "I'm off-world doing a mission," and that mission is the Lobo thing. And so when he finally finishes the mission of the Lobo thing, he goes and saves Cowlin, which we see in the latest issue of War Journal.
Sure.
So literally it just like all lined up perfectly for War Journal. But really, what did it do for House of Brainiac? Okay, we learned that what did we even learn? That this other Zarnian wasn't Lobo that I had always said. And then what else? We found was that the one where we found Brainiac's family?
Maybe. I don't know. I know the not Lobo got teleported back to Brainiac's ship or something. Yeah. I think Guy also did as well.
Yeah, they both did.
Yeah.
And so that they got teleported to a thing, and then they escaped by they made Guy a Zarnian as well, or they painted him as a Zarnian, whatever.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That's how they escaped. I don't even know. The Guy Gardner.
For me though, I don't look at tie-ins as how do these impact or have some sort of effect on the main story. For me, tie-ins I look at them as it's for me. Titans are more about just like showing how this event is impacting other parts of the universe.
Yeah,
I think it
but, like-
rarely flips the other way. And I'm not saying that these were good interpretations of that, because I don't think my point in this whole thing is that I think they do count as tie-ins, because I do think it is showing the ramifications of House of Brainiac on another corner of the universe. But I don't think they're good. I don't think the Power Girl tie-ins are good. I don't think the Green Lantern tie-ins were really all that good either. And those are the only two tie-ins that we had. So I think tie-in wise, it was pretty weak across the board. I just think the core story was good, was really solid. And I think I can't really compare the tie-ins of Night Terrors to the tie-ins of House of Brainiac, because the quality gap in the Night Terrors one was much wider, but there were also so many more of them, and so it was more exhausting. So I'm gonna give House of Brainiac the edge over Night Terrors. I think the core series was maybe a little bit better in House of Brainiac than it was in Night Terrors, and I think like while some of the tie-ins of Night Terrors were much better than the average quality of the House of Brainiac tie-ins, since there were so many less House of Brainiac tie-ins, I do think overall it just felt like a just better event overall, I think.
So you think this one was better than Night Terrors?
I'm gonna give this over Night Terrors, I think. Yeah.
Okay. See, for me, tie-ins, yes, they should show how it's affecting other parts of the world. That's fine. Like that's understandable. But for me, Guy Gardner one, it didn't do that. Maybe the Power Girl one did. It kind of showed how Metropolis, or at least really that one central part of Metropolis, just dealing with those other random ass Zarnians that were there. But for me, the Green Lantern ones didn't do jack. And some of the for at least the tie-ins for Night Terrors, I don't even know, because some of those also felt just completely why.
Sure, they were all. There were a lot of them where it's like, why are you doing this? But I do think, to be fair to all of them, since they were all set in the nightmares that each character was having, it definitely still was showing the ramifications of that event.
It was showing ramifications, yeah. It's always so hard for me, because the tie-ins for me are what really, really set it apart.
Right.
Between each things, because core issue wise, I would definitely say this one. I think.
Yeah.
Overall, I liked the core issues better for this one. I just enjoyed them more. But
here's the thing I'm also going to bring up, because I remember very vividly, you gave Contest of Chaos a better than Night Terrors, and this is leagues better than that.
Did I? Oh my god! Did I give Contest of Chaos?
You absolutely did. Just the reason you gave was that it was only 9 issues compared to 50 of Night Terrors, and you're like, I would much sooner read all of Contest of Chaos than I would all of Night Terrors, is the reasoning that you gave.
I think I just, because I don't even know, dude. Thinking back.
To be fair, that was also much more fresh off of Night Terrors. That ended a month after Night Terrors did. So I think the Night Terrors stuff was still kind of in our mind.
Now that it's thinking back on Night Terrors, it was fine. It was good for what it was. I definitely.
Yeah, actually, I kind of look back fondly on Night Terrors. Actually,
thinking back on it, I definitely wouldn't give Contest of Chaos better than Night Terrors. Some of those I just really did not enjoy. This one I think is Beast World. I actually did enjoy quite a lot too. At least the core issues.
Yeah.
Some of the tie-ins were mediocre at best, but the core issue part, what was happening with Beast Boy and his whole death thing, that scene for me just was insane. For me, Beast World was definitely, I would say, was better than Night Terrors, at least core issue wise. I'd have to say this one as well. Ultimately, I think just overall, I think I enjoyed this one more. I think, even though, genuinely not counting Green Lantern, I think it flowed better. I think throwing those Green Lantern tie-ins in there didn't do anything for the story, and it broke the flow, honestly.
Yeah.
Yes. Hands down.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I do think the quality is not that far apart between these two events. I actually don't think. I think it's kind of a toss-up for me, but ultimately I remember feeling so fatigued with Night Terrors by the end of it. And maybe it's not fair, it's not really fair to compare them because this is a much shorter event, but
yes,
I didn't feel that with this. I felt that with Contest of Chaos. I didn't feel it with this though. And I think, the fact that Contest of Chaos was only 9 issues and I still felt fatigued with it, I do feel a little bit better comparing them. So I think I am going to give it to this. I think it'll be more of a one-to-one comparison once we do this talk with Blood Hunt in about a month, once that series is wrapped up, because that is much more comparable in terms of the structure of Night Terrors versus the structure of Blood Hunt is more similar in terms of the amount of issues. But I think I'm going to give it to this, but it's not that far of a quality gap, I don't think, because again, there were some genuinely good tie-ins to Knights Heroes. I don't think there were any tie-ins to this series that I would say were good. There were some that were okay, but I don't think any of them were great. And the core series, I would give this the edge slightly, but not by a huge amount. So it's close, but I think I'm going to give it to this one.
Okay, yeah. I mean, ultimately, I am also going to give it to this one as well. We are going to go Daredevil.
Okay, so this is Daredevil issue number 10, written by Saladin Ahmed. The artist is Juan Cabal. So I have waxed on a lot about my frustration with the series, which is that I don't think it's bad. I just think it's whatever, and that the series I have not been able to connect with, and I just have not been able to I haven't been able to make myself care about this series for the vast majority of its run. Even the issues in the series that I like, I still kind of am like, well, okay, I read it, and that's all. That's the only thought I have about it, is that I read it. But to this issue's credit, I did somewhat care a little bit about this issue. I'll say that. This issue picks up right where the last one left off. It's kind of ignoring most of the giant-sized Daredevil thing. Not really. The Kingpin stuff does come into play, but it's not directly following off of that. It's directly following off of the previous issue where I don't remember the kid's name, but one of the kids at the orphanage, he has found Matt's Daredevil suit, and so and he's like, "Hey, what the fuck is this all about? You killed my dad."
Yep.
And I think a big problem I've had with this series is that I never feel like there's really any substantial emotional payoff to things. Last issue was the reunion between Matt and Foggy, and I just felt nothing in that sequence. It just did not impact me at all. And I remember specifically calling that out and being like, this should have been such a huge emotional moment within the series, and it just fell completely flat. I actually think this one works quite well. I think the back and forth between Matt and the kid whose name I just found out is Jason, their back and forth is good. And I think genuinely full of, I think the dialogue conveys the, heavily, I don't know, the very large emotions that are flying back and forth between the two of them, which I think is cool. I think that worked well. After that, Cole calls Matt and he's like, hey, we know where Kingpin is. He's in this place over here. And so he and Electra go, they fight their way through the building. They get separated. And then Matt runs into Fisk. And this is really the first back and forth conversation we've had between the two of them in this new run. And this is where I do think it fell a little bit flat still. I think the conversation between them when they were just talking was pretty bland and pretty generic. Fisk is like, I'm here and I'm just going to go back to basics. And this is the most pure thing. Because he's possessed by the demon greed, I think is what he has. Yeah. So, and actually, we found out in the giant-sized issue that because of that, and because, greed is one of Matt's own sins, it's his personal one that came through the portal, Kingpin now knows who Daredevil is. He knows that Matt is Daredevil now. Yeah. So, they're back and forth. I think their conversation is not great. Then they have a bit of a fight, and Kingpin's kind of monologuing at Matt while he's doing this. And I think that dialogue is actually very good. It's good Kingpin dialogue. And then he just beats the shit out of Daredevil, throws him down a big elevator shaft or something. And so at that point, Matt's other priest dude that he's working with, Father Javi, calls him and is like, hey, Jason just ran away and what's going on? And Matt's beaten up and just lying in a bloody pulp on the floor. That's what the issue ends. So I think that this is the strongest issue of this run that we've had in a while. It's up there, I think, as one of the strongest issues of the run, period. I do think this one works. I think, I think again, the confrontation at the start was good. I think, the middle stuff was all fine. And the ending, I think, was also solid. The only thing I kind of didn't love about it was that actual, verbal sparring between Fisk and Matt, I just thought was kind of generic. And I don't know, given their long history, I was hoping for a little bit more than that. And I didn't really get that. But other than that, this is kind of, it's not fully restoring my faith in the series, but this is the first step down that path. I think genuinely now I am actually somewhat anticipating the next issue and not just kind of being whatever. So I think this is a good first step back in the direction of getting me to care about this series. I don't know if it'll keep going down that path or if it'll revert back to what it was for me, but regardless, I'm happy enough with this issue. I think it's a solid issue, and I did generally quite enjoy this one. Actually.
Yeah, I mean, I thought this one was all right, honestly. The beginning bit with Jason thing, it kind of bothers me still, because I feel like a lot of Matt's inner fight within himself for this series so far has been like, who do I want to be, like Daredevil or Father Matt. And I still feel like he's still fighting with that, especially with this one. Like when Jason ran away, he was like chasing after him, but he just like stopped because his phone rang, and that was it. Like he just like let Jason go. He was like, fuck it. Oh, you fucking go after him.
To be
bro.
fair,
Like,
I mean, I do agree to a degree. Also, though, it was, as far as Matt knew, it was Foggy calling him, and he knows that Foggy and Cole were working on trying to find Kingpin. I think he would probably think that is a bigger
actually, fair
priority
enough,
for him.
He stopped because it was a special ringtone specifically for
exactly
Matt or somebody else. I think it was Cole.
Or Foggy, yeah.
Foggy. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
So that fair enough there. I just remembered that there was that special ringtone, and that's why he stopped. But still, I feel like even after the phone call, he could have, gone for Jason. But
sure,
that's besides the point. Besides the point. And then, yeah, honestly, I don't know. I didn't mind the Kingpin stuff. I definitely thought the monologue that he had after he basically before he threw Matt down the air elevator shaft or out the window or whatever was definitely better than when Matt first saw him and they were first talking. I definitely thought that was a lot better when he announced that he himself was Greed and whatever and stuff, and you saw the actual devil kind of the miasma around him or whatever, glowing or whatever. I don't fucking know. I thought that was pretty cool. And then just the fact that even Matt was he's way too strong to be himself right now or something like that. So Greed's power was basically he was sapping away at Matt's strength, and that's why Matt couldn't really do anything or even get up after Kingpin had kind of beaten him up a little bit. Is just the fact that Greed was sapping away at Matt's strength that entire confrontation. Well, that's that's a Greed power thing. I don't fucking know. But regardless, I don't know, man. I thought this one was all right. I've just kind of been reading these Daredevil ones, honestly.
Yeah.
Most of them have been just pretty all right for me. I think we keep saying this, but I enjoyed the Devil thing at first, but at this point, I feel like it's just not even dragged on. I just feel like it's this secondary thing sometimes. And
this is the first issue in a while that I actually didn't feel that, because this one clicks both the Bullseye / Fist / Heat arc and the Devil arc together, and I think that actually has helped me a little bit, because it's now it doesn't feel like I'm just being bounced around between a whole bunch of different plot lines, or mostly just two, but just kind of being bounced back and forth between those two. Now it feels like they're connected in a way that I can kind of latch onto and be okay, this is where this is kind of culminating in. And I think that helped me kind of get more invested in this arc again.
Okay. No, yeah, for me, I don't know, man. I felt more of the Devil one in this one than anything else. I understand the Heat was in the building with Kingpin or whatever, and that's partially why Elektra was there, I think. Well, I think she also wants to take down Fisk. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna give this one a 6.
I'm giving this one a 7. I think it was pretty solid. Okay, I'm going to move on and talk about the Flash here real quick. Sad days, because it's the first issue of the Flash that Sebastian's not reading. I made him read the Department of Truth instead. This is written by Simon Spurrier. The artists are Ramon Perez and Vasto Georgiev. So this issue picks up right from the end of last issue, where there's a big Batman robot, and it's I'm going to fucking kill you, Barry. We're going to throw down right now. And most of this issue is Barry fighting this Batman robot. Where it's throwing out a bunch of gadgets and stuff trying to catch Barry, but because it is kind of powered by AI, it's not able to predict Barry as well, as because it doesn't account for his human just kind of instincts, and so he's able to kind of outfox it. He doesn't end up beating it. It turns out it's Green Arrow in the big Batman robot working for Waller, which also makes a lot of sense, because the whole time that Ollie is he's talking to Walker, and he's hey, or Waller talking to Waller, and he's hey, I don't want to fucking kill him. I'll help you capture him, but I don't want to kill him. And so he's kind of pulling his punches a little bit. And as a result, that's also part of why Barry is able to kind of get away and win there. Then we also have, there's some stuff with Wally. Mostly, he's in the Eden Place thing. And he has now completely lost all his memory. As of this issue, his memory's all gone. And so right at the end, we have, I believe it's Thawne coming and talking to, he gets injected with the Eobard Thawne personality that Barry had, and so he kind of is now the host for Thawne, and they're we're gonna kill time essentially. And there's also some stuff with Inspector Pilgrim and that whole thing at their TVA area, where they realized that the Archangels lied about the speedsters destroying the Speed Force, and they're like, we got to figure out why this is. So yeah, and so they're kind of like, well, there's no real point in capturing them now, and like if they don't want the speedsters in action, we should probably actually just let them all go and put them back in the world, since they're also feeling the effects of this universe destruction, like probably more than anybody else even. And so yeah, I mean, I think it was just a pretty good issue, actually. I like this one quite a bit. It was very kind of straightforward. A lot of it was focused on that fight between Barry and Ollie. And it was a decent fight. It wasn't anything like crazy, but it was decent enough. And I think the little developments of the other plot threads worked quite well, because it did kind of keep some of that science-y technobabble stuff from becoming overwhelming in a way that it kind of has in a lot of the other issues. I do wish that there's one complaint I had. I would like it if this issue did like bring Wally back into focus a little bit, because Wally's kind of been a very, very small part of this story since like issue 7. It's mostly been Barry's kind of thing since then, and some of the other Flash family as well, but Barry's kind of been the main Flash in action since that point. And not that I have anything against Barry, I like Barry, but I did want to see like a good showcase of Wally in this series, and it's been kind of a while since we've had that. So I'm sure they'll get to that eventually, because they are like, clearly they are building some stuff with him as a character. But yeah, as far as this issue goes, I liked it. I'd give it an 8. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was a pretty solid issue of The Flash.
Well, hey, maybe I'm not even gonna say that. I won't pick it up.
You're not gonna read it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, not gonna. Well, anyway, moving right along here. I'm gonna read.
Yeah, so you're gonna read it live on. You're gonna read it live on the podcast. Yeah.
On the podcast. Superior Spider-Man number 8, the finale of this return series here. Fan favorite series of many. We got writer Dan Slott. Yep. And penciler Mark Bagley. Yeah, so this one picks up immediately after number 7 with Spider-Man. I forget which lab he's in or which building he's in, honestly. But
is it the Beyond facility?
I genuinely don't even know where that is. I'm pretty sure it's where Doc Ock had like previous lab, or no, I think it's actually never mind. I think it's actually Peter's own lab.
Yeah, Parker Industries probably is where it would be then.
It might be there. I don't really remember. That's not the point. Regardless,
I think it is the point, Sebastian.
It's not the point. It's not the point. It's the fact that he's in a building, and he's still going up against Aunt May, J. Jonah Jameson, and a third person that he cares for very much. I think it might be Joseph Robertson.
Okay.
They're still being mind controlled by the spiders that Doc Ock has taken over as well, and at this point he's taken over all of New York with the spiders.
Forget about it.
Yeah, exactly. He basically Peter basically is like, I'm not gonna fight you guys, whatever. And it turns out that Otto's old arms were on J. Jonah Jameson, right? Because that was a thing that happened before. Right. And I guess those arms and Peter became really good friends at one point. And so the arms basically just detached themselves from Jonah and just like helps Peter for just cause. And so that's how that got solved. So Peter then swings over to where the real Otto is with Spider-Boy, and they're on top of the Empire State Building, I believe. And so he swings over there, but not before a Spider-Boy brings over Anna Maria Marconi. He brings her over in a spider bot, so she's there as well. And a bunch of villains are there because the spiders, took a role in New York, so whatever. So a bunch of villains are there. I think a bunch of the Wreckers, I believe, specifically are there. Oh, and 8-Ball. 8-Ball was there.
Ah, there we go.
8-Ball, I almost forgot about 8-Ball's there as well. And so basically Peter swings over there, and he starts fighting the bad guys, obviously outnumbered. But with Otto seeing the fact that he also took over Anna Maria Marconi's body, he decides to do the right thing and basically shut off the machine and make all the spider things come out of people, basically just stop taking over New York. So he does that. It was a trick though. Anna was never actually taken over by spiders. She just pretended like it because she had a feeling that that's who Doc was now. He cared enough to basically want to free her at least. So he releases also Supernova. She was going to incinerate him, but then Spider-Man is basically like, hey, you're free now. He lets you go. You're free now. You can do whatever you want. Do you really just want to kill this guy. And so she just flies away. And then, also, as a result of Otto releasing all the spiders, he also lost his memory up to a certain point. I'm not exactly sure, but he doesn't remember anything that happened in this entire series.
Oh, great.
I could say. I don't even think he remembers Anna, actually, so even beforehand.
Yeah.
At that point. And that's where it ends. He just leaves, and that is it. Overall, as an issue, okay, as an issue, I didn't mind it. I hated the ending so much. I thought that was like, what's the point of this entire like series essentially if you're just gonna erase it all at the end? Like literally, like Supernova doesn't do anything; she just fucks off. Otto forgets literally like I think this one and the previous Superior Spider-Man series, so they just erased both technically.
Yeah.
Peter's the only one that remembers it. What else? Spider-Boy was just here just to add him, I feel like. And yeah, that was like entire thing just felt pointless at the end just because that one reason that they just like erased everything. 8-Ball was good in it for what it was, I guess. Honestly, he's like the best part of this. But anyway, I didn't really series as a whole, I liked the beginning part. I thought it was good. I think it was after, honestly, it was like 5 and on were the ones that I didn't like. The first 4 I think I didn't mind, but the last 4 I didn't like at all that much. They just were going downhill in quality in my opinion. But so yeah, honestly, I think I'm gonna give this one a 5. Yeah.
Well, let's go and talk about Void Rivals here. This is Void Rivals number 10, written by Robert Kirkman, and the artist is Lorenzo De Felici. And yeah, I mean, I've thought about it before numerous times. This is just far and away the least consistent Energon Universe book. I really, really liked the last issue. I was very bored by this issue. There is a bit of a continuation of the fight between Springer and Proximus at the start of this issue. Ultimately, Springer kind of gets the upper hand, and Proximus just kind of like runs away to recover. And
he lost his arm and leg.
Yeah. Oh, right. Actually, I forgot. Yeah, Springer kind of really fucked him up.
Yeah.
After that, it's kind of just a lot of exposition. There's a scene. There's some scenes kind of with the higher up politics of the Sacred Ring between Zertonia and Agoria, and like the leaders are talking and they're like, "Are you glad that Darek, your son, is still alive?" And he's like, "No, I'm gonna kill him myself." There's another mention of like Zerta Tryon, and then again, like Springer kind of exposits a lot of stuff because essentially he's able to revive Solilla by pouring Energon into like her little diamond thing on her head.
It's like an Energon port or whatever.
Right. And that gives her kind of a power. She kind of glows pink for a little bit, or purpley pink. And then after that, Sprinter's just like, yeah, you guys are seemingly like part of this sect of Cybertronians that like broke off from the rest of us, like kind of towards the beginning of our history, and went to do your own thing. And that's kind of what I remember from this, was just a whole lot of exposition. I don't know if there was a big cliffhanger or anything. Oh, wait, there was. Yeah, actually, a bunch of like a big army shows up. I believe it's the Zertonian army, and they're like, "We're gonna fucking kill all you guys." And they're like, "All right, let's get ready for battle." And that's kind of where it ends. And it was just a big like expository info dump in a way that I do not think was interesting. I would have preferred to like see them branching off, like see some, like we saw some of them just kind of branching off and kind of, we're able to visually have a representation of that, as opposed to just seeing these 3 characters just standing in a triangle talking to each other about it. I don't know. I just thought it was a boring way to deliver the exposition. And, is the reveal, like, fine. It's cool enough, I guess. They're Cybertronians, kind of. And that's something. Kind of, like, loops this in a little bit further, deeper into the Energon universe. And that's all well and good. But I just thought it was boring. Again, like, after last issue was so strong, this really disappointed me, so I didn't end up liking this one that much.
I'm actually quite the opposite. I really like this one. I thought this one was very interesting, especially the whole. I don't know. I think I found it more interesting because I'm like more knowledgeable about like the Cybertronian like universe, that side of things. So just for like my knowledge to like basically be expanded by that from just this whole conversation, I thought was very interesting. I thought that there's like, all right, so like Springer left because so Zerta Tryon essentially is a Cybertronian warrior or something that split off like way before the Civil War started happening. And he was saying that there has only been 2 that actually have gotten the name of Tryon in like their whole history, one of them being Zerta Tryon. And while Solilla was under getting pumped full of energon, she had like this vision, kind of a vision that Zerda was actually speaking to her, and that's like been her whole goal has been to find also find Zerda or whatever. And so Springer has also been trying to find Zerda, and yeah, the fact that these basically both the what are they called?
Agorians and the Zertonians.
That they are basically part Cybertronian and like part synthetic, I think is what Springer calls it. Yeah, I think this whole thing was just like that whole expo dump was honestly for me very interesting. Just to like learn a bit more about that. And then just towards the end that basically the entire, I think Solilla's is hers is the Zertonians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like basically the entire like Zertonian army like shows up at Springer's front door at the end of this essentially. But I didn't find this one boring or anything, especially like usually I know I usually do when they like info dump on us, but I just found it interesting. But I think that's just because I'm more invested in the whole Transformers thing, so that's probably why. But I actually quite like this one. I give it an 8.
I give it a 6.
All right, let's talk about World Tree.
All right. This is World Tree number 11, written by James Tynion IV, and the artist is Fernando Blanco. This concludes the second arc of World Tree. Now, at the time of recording this, we don't know when the next issue is going to be. My guess is in October or November, but we're not positive on that. It's going to take a little bit of a break. This issue, so this entire arc, I've been kind of going on about how I like a lot of what World Tree's doing. I think the dialogue is usually very good, and I like a lot of the stuff that it's setting up, and I think the cliffhangers are oftentimes excellent, but then they don't pay them off like at all. They kind of just like hand wave away the cliffhanger and just kind of do this very anticlimactic solution, which ends up just feeling very unsatisfying narratively. And I also, last issue I was kind of talking about how I realized how this arc is kind of just focused around providing the backstory of the original, confrontation with the Undernet and how World Tree kind of stopped it in the first place. Like, that's kind of what this was doing, was filling out that backstory. But I think, like, because it was still doing stuff in the present, it did kind of trick me into thinking that it was kind of a more present-focused arc. And as a result, I kept wanting to see how that story was pushed forward, and it kind of was more focused on building out the backstory. So that's kind of been my kind of frustration with this arc up to this point. This issue, I do think I think it mostly solves that problem. This is a much more fast-paced, high-energy issue of World Tree, where essentially Silk and Fear have a big-ass confrontation. Silk has been, like, transported into the Undernet. We see a little bit more of it, not too much, but she also, like, seemingly gets thrown into the future that we saw at the end of the first arc, where everything's just fucked and World Tree, or the Undernet has just, like, destroyed the world. She sees a version of that for a brief moment before being pulled back into the real world. They have a big kind of fight with her and the dude who was kind of tailing her for most of the arc. They have a big fight with Fear, ultimately, like, pretty severely, like, wounding her. I mean, not, like, severely, but they shoot her a couple times, and she does get hurt.
She gets shot in the shoulder by Silk.
Yeah, and so then she kind of goes back to recover, Fear does, and ends up going to, I believe, the person who was working with Gabe and World Tree in the flashback stuff to help them contain it and get rid of it. I think it's the same person who has sent Fear.
The like rich billionaire guy or whatever.
Who they were. Yeah, I think it's the same guy, and which would make sense to me because he saw the Undernet and he wanted to see more of it, and they were like, "No, we're not going to let you." So I think this is him kind of being like, after like kind of that whole thing being like, "Well, actually, I do want to see more of the Undernet. I'm just going to fucking bring it back." So that's kind of the issue, and I liked it. I think it was cool. I think the action sequence was good. I liked Silk's little kind of brief trip through the Undernet. We haven't seen much of the Undernet yet, so it's always cool. I think when we do see bits and pieces of it, I like that. I did like this. I think this is the first issue in a while where I've been really satisfied with how it kind of progressed, and also this is the first issue probably of this arc where I feel like it satisfyingly resolved the cliffhanger. So I ended up quite enjoying this one.
No, I 100% agree with you. I really have not been liking World Tree lately, and this one, like you said, like it just left me satisfied. Honestly, I was wondering who that guy at the very end was with Fear and stuff like that. Because sometimes these characters are just like they blend for me. Honestly, it's so hard sometimes to remember these guys' faces and stuff like that. I feel like simply because it's just been so many.
Yeah, this series in
like,
particular, there's a lot of supporting characters. I don't remember even like the main groups. Like I don't remember most of their names.
Like literally, besides Gabriel, I don't remember any of their names.
I remember Ellison and Fausta, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even remember theirs. Like I remember Silks, but yeah, I think like you said, I think you summed it up pretty well. That this one like it felt action heavy, and it felt like it wrapped things up to a point where like I was like, okay, I'm satisfied with this, because a lot of, like you said, a lot of this arc has been like a lot of these secondary, like the secondary story of like really how the internet came to be and stuff like that. And like, well, that's interesting. I felt like it was dragging on a bit much, to the point where like I felt like they were going way too deep into it. You could leave some mystery for me, and you could still tell a story just fine. But yeah, I think this one, I'm glad this one avoided that and focused a bit more on Silk and the present day of like the action stuff a bit more. So I quite enjoyed this one a bit. Yeah, I gave it a 7.
I give it a 9. Okay, let's go and move on to Ultimate Black Panther here.
Black Panther.
This is Ultimate Black Panther number 5, written by Brian Hill. The artist is Carlos Nieto. So I'm trying to think like what even happens in this issue. I know like we learn more about the big thing is kind of, it fills in some gaps on what the orb is. We now have pondered the orb. We know what the orb is. It's essentially the anti-vibranium, and that vibranium is this, incredibly powerful non-organic material, whereas this other power source, or the orb, it's this incredibly powerful organic thing where it kind of literally creates life at this insanely rapid pace. It's like shooting tendrils of growth and foliage and weeds and all this stuff, and if it's not contained properly, it will just like overrun everything and just like kind of swamp the world in this big fucking tangle of vegetation. And so ultimately, like, T'Challa goes and talks to the Vodou Khan, which are the kind of the mystical, like, future fortune teller people. And in this conversation, to this point, we haven't really had a good read on the Vodou Khan, I don't think, because they've seemed kind of mysterious and kind of sketchy and ominous a little bit. In this one, I get the sense that they're actually, like, they have the best interest of Wakanda at heart, because they are saying, like, they know that T'Challa doesn't trust them, but they're like, we trust you, T'Challa, to help us and get us through this. Although they do say that he's gonna like die or something, they made some like vague, ominous prophecy towards him, where he's like, they're like, you're gonna lose everything and you will fall so far, and
your knees.
And so there's that, and then so then Ron Khonshu, they send in one of their kind of people.
It wasn't one of their people. It was a Wakandan farmer that they kidnapped.
Oh right, yes it was, yeah. So they make him into a Moon Knight, and then they send him to Wakanda. He's able to steal like the power source, the orb, for Ron Khonshu, and then that's kind of where it is. They're like, we have it now. We're gonna go to war. Essentially, we're gonna just take over Wakanda.
They're gonna create their own kingdom,
right? And so that's kind of where this issue is. Again, I do like this series. I do. I think it's good, but I do still find myself feeling just like nothing's kind of happening, even though again stuff does happen. We get a lot of information about some of the one, I guess, major mystery that's been in this series for a couple issues, but still I feel like there's a climactic confrontation coming, but I don't feel like it's really been built up to. I feel like it's just kind of going to happen. I think when that conversation does happen, I think it's going to be soon. I think it's going to be within the next couple issues. I mean, the next arc is called like War of the Gods or something, I think. And that starts, or War of the Kingdoms is what it's called. And that starts in issue number 7. And that sounds really like climactic and like a big deal. And I feel like it'll just kind of feel like it just pops in out of nowhere, because I really don't feel like it's been built up very effectively in this arc. So as much as I do, like, I'm enjoying reading this series. I think it's fun. I think the dialogue is good and the characterizations are good. But ultimately, I'm just still kind of being like, well, I don't feel like this is building things up in a way that will effectively convey the like grand nature and scope of this war when it does pop up. I think it'll feel a little bit just kind of out of nowhere as a result of how weird and kind of threadbare a lot of the buildup has been.
Okay, yeah. No, I mean, the pacing has been not slow. It's just been steady. Like, it's always constantly, like, it's never not moving, honestly, the pace along. It's just been at such, like, a steady pace that it feels slow, honestly. But, like, things are, technically things are constantly happening in this series.
Except for issue 3. Nothing really happened in issue 3.
But regardless, like things have been moving, you know, things are falling into place in a way. I think it's just been the fact that like, you know, like, and I mean, I really only have like one really other big one to compare this one to, which would be like Ultimate Spider-Man, where at least in that one, it has constantly felt like it's been like it's felt like its pace has been good simply because that like I don't even know how to explain that.
I mean, I would argue you compare it to any of the other Ultimate series and it feels slow. Ultimate X-Men, like, it is slow, but it does feel like there's, like, big events I can kind of point to in each issue, and I'm like, that felt kind of, like, consequential. The Ultimates, I don't know if you've read that first issue yet.
I did.
It's fucking big. Like, there's a lot of shit that goes down there. So.
Well, yeah. Ultimates, that one was huge. But, like, for me, like, I think the best one I can try to explain it to is honestly Spider-Man. But it's like, with Spider-Man, you know, we've like, okay, Peter is learning his powers, and that's basically been the point of that one. But this one, right, Black Panther, like, T'Challa has had his powers the entire time. Like, he's still been the Black Panther. But I don't know, man, it's different. It's just it's so hard to explain this, what I'm trying to convey here, but it's fine. I'm just gonna give up here. But just the pace has been like, it's just been steady to the point where it feels slow, but I don't think it really is. Story-wise, I thought, man, it was the same. It was all right. It's just the same. You know, we've finally pondered the orb enough to learn that it's the opposite of vibranium, like how the Voodoo Khan explained it essentially. What else?
Storm gets a cool moment where she fries the Moon Knight. That was pretty cool. I like that.
Oh, yeah. We haven't seen Killmonger in, like, ages, I feel like, honestly.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. I don't really know where he is right now.
And, the Ron... Who is it? It's Khonshu. It's just Khonshu,
Yeah.
Right?
It's Ron Khonshu.
It is Ron Khonshu. Okay, cool.
Khonshu's kind of the main one in this issue, but he's working with Ra.
Yeah, it is. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they got the orb, and they're going to make a kingdom to... I assume it's just to, like, rival Wakanda. I'm not too sure why they want to destroy Wakanda in the first place, I'll be honest.
I think because they kind of are in control of all of Africa except for Wakanda, and I think they're just kind of like about it. Yeah.
Okay, Maker's Council stuff. Gotcha.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, what to rate this? I think I'm gonna give it a 7. Honestly.
Yeah, I will as well. Yeah.
That feels good. All righty here. Redcoat.
This is Redcoat number 3, written by Jeff Johns, and the artist is Brian Hitch. I don't think there's too much to talk about here. We kind of we get more of we get the backstory on the axe. Yes. It's the axe of lies. It's like the lasso of lies, but it's an axe. Except not really, because it just like kills immortals. And presumably also mortals. But it's the axe of George Washington. From the whole, like, the cherry tree story, the whole George Washington being like, Father, I chopped down the cherry tree. Except that is not actually at all what happened. He did not say that he chopped down the cherry tree. He blamed it on, like, a neighbor, like, from their neighboring farm. And then his dad, George Washington's dad, like, ran that neighbor out of town and just absorbed his farm into his own. And then kind of, this axe built all this, like, you know, supernatural arcane power, and now it's able to kill immortal people.
Yep.
So... Benedict Arnold kind of talks about this to Simon for a little bit, and then Simon and Albert Einstein, they go and they escape into kind of Benedict Arnold's big, like, hall full of this, like, just a bunch of, like, memorabilia from, like, big historical figures from this era. I will say after that there's like a big fight, and I don't remember how this one ends, honestly, but
I mean, I like the so the people that originally stabbed Simon, they
yes, I
like
essentially
now, they essentially like tracked him down to the mansion or whatever, or they might have already been there. I'm not too that part was kind of unclear to me. But they like shot this like big ass laser at the mansion, like blew like half of it up because of it. So they found Simon and Einstein found like this book that like basically has like all the answers or whatever, but it's written in like backwards Latin, if I remember correctly.
Yes, it's written in backwards Latin.
Yeah, and so so Simon and Einstein are escaping on a like a wagon filled with explosives, obviously, because that's good,
like a normal wagon. Yeah,
exactly. And so Einstein gives Simon like a spell to say to like get the the group
The
off
cultists, probably.
The cultists, yeah, that's
Yeah.
the word. The cultists off their back. Simon says it wrong, throws fire onto the explosive barrels, and it blows up.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
Well, no, because then he wakes up and he's captured by the cultists.
Oh, that's
and he's
right.
Like, now
right.
we will actually do the ritual the way it was meant to. You will no longer be immortal. We're gonna fucking fuck you up.
That's right.
Did you like how Benedict Arnold was talking about how much he could not understand Albert Einstein's accent? Because I know you had a big problem with that.
Yeah, man. It's still I genuinely, I mean, I
think it was easier to understand in this issue.
I will say it was easier, but I think that's just because I felt like he didn't have as many speaking lines as
That's
last
also
issue.
probably part of it, yeah.
Because this one, and when he did, it definitely wasn't as fucking long as last issue.
Yeah, he didn't have really like any full speeches in this issue.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what my problem with Redcoat like this series is. Like, I don't think it's bad for some reason. Like, I don't think it's like a bad issue, but I think I just have a problem with it. Like, I just have not been liking it at all for some reason.
That's kind of how I felt with Daredevil.
Yeah, like I really can't explain it. It's just like I read it and I'm like, okay, that wasn't bad, but I just did not like it, and I just can never figure out why. I just genuinely don't know why. Like, I don't know if it's like if I just find it boring, but like interesting enough, or like I don't know. I think it's just because it's been a lot of like dialogue, and like this is one where I feel like the story doesn't really go places. Like, there's just a lot of dialogue in the middle, and everything happens on like the last 2 pages, and you're just like, oh. And I think that might be it, maybe, because I just have not been enjoying this series that much at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I like the series. I think it's fun. It's not like amazing, but I have a good time with it every time I read it. I do think like this issue is less kind of joke heavy than some of the previous ones. This is kind of more expository and then ending in kind of a big action sequence. But first of all, I think the character of Simon, I think his voice is fun enough on its own to keep things entertaining for me throughout the issue. And I really liked the Brian Hitch art in this series, which is, I'm actually not the biggest Brian Hitch fan. I think a lot of the times it can come off as kind of weird and like kind of almost like goopy and slimy a little bit, but I don't feel that with this series. I really like the art in this so far. I think, you know, I like the kind of historical setting, and, you know, I like some of the teases for like how this connects to Geiger. They, you know, make some mentions of the unnamed war and all that. So I just think like generally I've been enjoying the series. I think it's not as good as like Rook Exodus, for instance. We'll be talking about that later, but
yeah,
I do think it's just a fun, lighthearted series that it's never like it's not really been like a highlight of any of the, you know, comics weeks for me.
Yeah,
but I think it's always fun. I never like, you know, am like, damn, that was a bad issue, you know. I always am glad that I read it. And usually it falls like right into the middle of my stack each week, where I'm like, all right, it's not towards the top of stuff I'm really excited to read, but it's also like it's just in a solid middle position that I'm always happy to read. So I don't know. I like this. I give it a 7. I thought it was pretty good.
See, we read our comics backwards. I read the ones that I don't want to read first, and that's when it usually is towards the front. And like I said, I really can't explain why I don't like it. Like, I think Simon's fine. Like, I understand his character, and like I will say this one was a serious, like more on the serious side, and I think that's because like his character is like, as much as like he is immortal and like has lived a lot of life, he still doesn't want to die, which is very random. Like, it's kind of weird usually, because like usually when people write immortals, it's usually more of the fact that like they want to find a way to die. They are sick of living already, and like for this one, it's not. He like does not want to die, and so yeah, I really don't know what my problem with this series is. I have not been enjoying it that much. But regardless, I thought this issue was fine, and yeah, gave it a 6.
All right. Well, we may as well just go straight into Rook Exodus here, also written by Jeff Johns, and the artist is Jason Fabok. So, yeah, this series just continues to impress me. I think it's very good. The art is just so good. It's like astounding.
Yeah.
It does such a great job of building the world out naturally, visually. You know, this book doesn't have to rely on a bunch of exposition to kind of build up this world, because the art does such a good job of just showcasing it naturally. I mean, in this one, we have Direwolf and Rook going to meet with, what's his name? Carapace is his name.
Yeah.
Who is the turtle dude of this series. I love, like, right at the start, we see them kind of walking in, and he's just got these fucking huge, like, snapping turtles that just have, like, guns on them. There's, like, huge, like, artillery weapons on them, all pointed at Rook as they're walking in. And so essentially a lot of this issue is Carapace kind of being like, hey, Rook, like, you need to be, like, more invested in our cause. Like, we don't trust you here because you just want to leave. And so they ultimately, they had kind of have a big kind of philosophical debate about a lot of that stuff. And ultimately this leads to, they go and they've kind of plug into the tech center of the world where kind of the entire system was run out of. And through that, they can communicate to all the other, animal people out there. And so I quite like that because it's also, they just, like, rapid fired off a bunch of the new ones. And I think the helmet designs are always really cool. So it was cool to see kind of more of those. There were a lot of them that I wasn't expecting to see, but it was cool to see all of them. But the downside of that is, so they're calling all these other guys to try and ask for their help in kind of taking back their world and kind of, revitalizing it and bringing it back to the kind of lush paradise that it was initially. But the negative side of that is when they call all those people, Ursaw is also one of them. And so he comes in, and somebody else has the swine helmet now as well. So, like, they just stole that from the actual swine. And then, Ursaw is marching on Carapace's city, and that kind of sets up the next issue, which is apparently going to be kind of a big war between these two factions. So, again, like, this series just continues to really impress me. I remember, like, the first issue, I was like, this is cool. The art's great. The world building is cool. But I was also kind of skeptical because I was like, well, I haven't been, the biggest Jeff Johns fan in the past. But I think now, like, it's so clearly the best of the Ghost Machine books. And I think a lot of that is to do with how good the art is and the world building. But even the story is just, it's cool. It's unique. It's interesting. It feels kind of fresh. It doesn't feel like the other Ghost Machine books. And I think it's just a really cool, just a cool series, and I like it a lot. So yeah, this was another very solid installment in it, I think.
No, yeah, I definitely think this so far has been the best Ghost Machine book. I've really enjoyed this one, and I think it's very heavily because of the world building. Like, the art is great, but I think the world building for me is what really sets it apart. It's very unique, and it's just genuinely super interesting with the way they explain it all too, because they don't just info dump it for you. They give it to you in small bits throughout, like, what feel like meaningful conversations between the characters, and to the point where it's like, okay, obviously that character knew that, but it's like they reiterate it in a way so that the reader can now know about it and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I've been really enjoying reading the Rook Exodus series. And yeah, the other I think they're called Wardens. The info dump on the Wardens and stuff like that, and, like, their mask designs are always just so cool to look at. I think there was a couple that I remember seeing. There was, like, a spider one. Yep. There was a rat one I know I saw in there. There was a mountain goat. Yeah. There was just a regular goat.
Polar bear, I think, was one of them.
Yeah, the polar bear one. There was a fox one. There was the rabbit one, obviously, which he had mentioned earlier in the issue.
Right.
Ursaw was actually already on his way, I think, to the base before they actually, like, plugged into that machine. But it was just Rook was actually, like, notified that he was actually on his way because they plugged into it. And it's so it's Ursaw, the new swine, and then Python as well.
Right, yeah.
On their side, and then it's, Rook, Direwolf, and Carapace on the other side. So yeah, that's gonna be next issue is gonna be a big war between those two factions. Ursaw has this ginormous, like, tank looking, like, city thing, honestly.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've really enjoyed this series so far. I think it does a great job of just, like, keeping it interesting and keeping the world building flow, like, keeps introducing new things into the world to keep it interesting as well, rather than just being like, okay, yeah, this is just, like, this ruined down, like, city, like, world that, like, was abandoned or whatever, like we've seen, like, hundreds of different times. It's actually, like, kind of like multiple factions of people that, like, want to save it, some want to leave, and others that just, like, kind of like Ursaw that are just, like, trying to take over it, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've been really enjoying this one. I gave it an 8.
I give it a 9.
Well, let's talk about Creature from the Black Lagoon.
All right. Well, this is Universal Monsters Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives, number 3, written by Rom V and Dan Waters, and the artist is Matthew Roberts. This issue, I do feel like not quite as much happens in this one from memory. A lot of it is kind of back and forth debates about like we got to get the creature, and then Kate is like, no, we gotta go and take down the serial killer. So they're kind of looking for the serial killer. I don't remember much of the issue other than how it ends, actually, because I know the ending. But
yeah, pretty much. You pretty much summed it up. Honestly, it's just the forensic dude or the scientist. I don't know. He's kind of like a scientist, but also like a forensic scientist. I don't know. He was examining a body at one point. He basically wants to kill the monster, or capture the monster to study it because of what it did to his face in the past. That's why his face is all scarred. It's because of the monster. And then Kate is after the serial killer, thinking he is kind of the monster because she still doesn't truly believe that there's an actual monster, even though she's kind of like seen it multiple times. But she has been putting it off as that's like her dehydration like sickness or whatever. That's what she calls it. Yeah. So
not even. It's like the hypoxia from the water, like getting in her lungs and not being able to breathe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like a dehydration sickness or whatever.
Not really dehydration. It's more lack of air.
But that's not. Oh God, I haven't saying dehydration. Drowning sickness. Jesus. That's what I meant to say. Not dehydration. That's a lack of water.
Yeah, I was like, that's like the opposite of what's happening. She's just,
that's literally the opposite.
Anything. Yeah.
And so and so they go to a creek area where they know for a fact the serial killer is, but they're hoping that or at least the scientist guy is hoping that the monster's there too. So they go there and they see a body in the river and they think it's the monster, but when they get closer, they realize it's just one of the narco bodies. It explodes. The serial killer jumps onto the boat, kind of knocks them off. And then he drags Kate to shore. We don't know what happens to the other two, the doctor and his like assistant. But he drags Kate to shore, and then he reveals that he like sewed a bunch of like the monster parts onto himself. Yeah, he was trying to turn
himself into the creature. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's what at the very end it's revealed that he like himself is calling himself the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah, I do like this one. The twist is a little bit strange.
Yeah.
But I think putting that aside, and obviously I'll wait to kind of I'll wait to have a full opinion on that until the next issue when we kind of see how that plays out. But I think ultimately the dialogue in this series is very strong, and as this issue was primarily focused on a lot of dialogue stuff, I still like that. I think it's good. I think the art's very good. I do like the fact that this series is continuing the same thing that the Dracula one did, and that it's not really showing the creature much, but it is still like the presence is still very much felt. I like all of that. So I don't have much to say on it besides that. I think it's a pretty kind of there's not a lot to this issue. Again, other than the twist, which is pretty strange.
Yeah.
But I think as far as the bulk of the issue is concerned, there's not too much to it, but I think the dialogue is good, and I think the characters, the way their interactions are portrayed is nice and complex and has some good depth to it. And I liked all that. So yeah, I like this one quite a bit. I give it an 8.
Yeah, I also quite like this one a lot. I think this series has been pretty good so far. Ultimately, it's still like, well, similar to Dracula, it still feels like very different from it as well. Just the way they are storytelling it. But I still think they're doing a pretty good job with it. And yeah, I also gave it an 8.
All right, well, let's go on to Spider-Gwen here. Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider, issue number 2, written by Stephanie Phillips. The artist is Federica Manson. So this issue starts out with Gwen is in an apartment, her apartment, with a bunch of the other Spider people, particularly Peter, Miles, and Silk. So the three of them are there, and they're like, "Why didn't you tell us you were back?" And Peter's like, "We fucking don't trust you anymore. You gotta trust us, and we don't trust you." And they're kind of all being like, "Yeah, what are you doing, Gwen? Do you pose a threat to this universe?" Which, like, to me, this seems like an insane reaction from them.
To be fair, it was mostly Peter that was really acting like that.
Yeah, sure. No, and that's true. It was mostly Peter. I don't feel like he would get that worked up about it, though. I feel like he'd be like, "Hey, it's weird. You probably, like, it would have been nice if you would let us know that you were here." But I think, like, it doesn't really make sense for him to be that, like, weird when he, just from her not letting him know that he was back at all. So then they kind of, some of them leave. Cindy sticks around for a little bit, and they kind of, they eat some pizza or whatever. And then, God, again, I know how this one ends. The middle is kind of a blur for me.
Okay, so So yeah, you got the beginning part down, and then it goes into Gwen receives after Silk leaves. Gwen
Yes.
gets an envelope with the dagger that she actually got stabbed with in the just like a random manila envelope, like no name, no nothing. Or no, she got the address where she took it, which was like an antique shop. I think
it was like a pawn shop kind of thing. Yeah.
And so the dude was like, yeah, this is like a really good fake over this certain knife. And so she's like, I wonder why they wanted me to come here for this then. And so that's when Peter shows up and asks Gwen for her help with a hostage situation down at the harbor. So she follows him, blah, blah, blah. And then while she's at the harbor, she realizes that something's weird. So she attacks Peter, and it's actually Chameleon.
Yeah, which I don't know if you called this. I called that about 2 pages before the reveal. I was like, this is the fucking Chameleon, isn't it?
Yeah, no, me too. I recognized him from the Spider-Man 2 game. That's where I recognized him again.
Yeah.
I was like, where was this guy? Where did I see this guy last? And I was like, that's right. Yeah. There it is. And that's when I remembered. I was like, okay, yes. And so, yeah. So that's how Kraven was alive in this universe again. Was the Chameleon was posing as him.
And they're like brothers, aren't they? Kraven and the Chameleon?
In the game, they are.
I'm pretty sure they are in canon as well. Although, to be fair, the current Kraven might not be the original Kraven. It might be his son. So I'm not positive on...
Yeah.
So it's possible this is his uncle. The Chameleon is his uncle for this one.
Yeah, so I am not too sure... I'm not too sure on like Kraven's whole background or even Chameleon's really. So yeah, I'm not like it's not revealed why Chameleon wants to kill Spider but why he wants to kill Gwen, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, really.
Yeah, I don't know. I still don't think this one is that good. I didn't like this one that much. I just think it's, again, like kind of bland, generic a lot of the time. And then like Peter was acting kind of out of character, I think. Yeah. And I don't like the Chameleon as a villain. I just don't. I think he's boring. I'm sure there have been good Chameleon stories before, but I just have never really cared about the Chameleon. So all of that is just like, it was fine. I don't think it had the it didn't have the cool like framing sequence that the previous issue had at the start and the end and how that kind of all connected. I just one thing we also didn't mention, they're still building up the mystery of like who pulled Gwen out of the water. So she assumed that it's one of the spider people, but it's not. So I don't know. But I'm like, who cares? Why did we care about that? I don't fucking know. So I don't know. I just thought this was bland and kind of generic, and I was kind of bored by it. The art's decent. I think the art's pretty good, but yeah, this is just not really doing it for me. I just think it's kind of okay.
I will say I didn't like this one as much as I liked the first one. I will say that. But I will give you the fact that Peter was acting weird, like definitely out of character. And I think even Miles, like as they were swinging out, like even Miles brings that up. Like I think he's like mentioned that like he was like kind of being harsh or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact conversation there, but yeah. And then yeah, Silk seemed like because even Miles wasn't acting weird. He was just more concerned. Peter seemed to be like the most not hurt, but just the most upset.
He seemed like blatantly suspicious. He was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?"
And then Silk was just like, "Yeah, next time get pizza without pineapple." She was just like, "Yeah, you're here, whatever." Chameleon, I don't really have a lot to say on Chameleon. I really don't have a lot of experience with Chameleon. We'll see. I don't know how long Chameleon is supposed to be staying in this one.
I guess until like issue 5 or 6 or something.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this one goes. Generally, I am genuinely enjoying this series so far, though. I think this has been one of the better Spider-Gwen series that we have gotten recently.
I mean, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And
it's better than Spider-Gwen Smash.
It definitely is better than Spider-Gwen Smash. It's still a mystery as to why Spider-Gwen is even in this universe, honestly.
Yeah, they didn't really give us any clues on that.
That's still a mystery. But yeah, going forward, I'm excited for this series. I've been enjoying it. So yeah, but like I said, I enjoyed this one less than the first one, so I gave this one a 7.
I give it a 5.
What?
I just don't think it was that good. I think it was just kind of okay.
6.
No, I'm giving it a 5. I gave the last issue a 6.
Let's see. We have 2 options here. Let me think about it. I thought about it.
I know what you're gonna pick, but then you might try and pick the other one to throw me off. So.
No. I thought about it, and I'm definitely gonna choose this one. What do you think I'm gonna choose?
I mean, Okay, here's the thing, right? I'm gonna walk you through my thought process here.
You have a 50-50 chance here.
I'm gonna walk you through my thought process before I
Okay.
definitively lock in an answer. All right?
Okay.
So here's the thing. I know you love Something Is Killing the Children, right? I know you love that series. That's your favorite series.
Mm-hmm.
So my gut is saying that you would want to talk about Sacrificers first because you want to talk about Something Is Killing the Children last. However, Something Is Killing the Children, this issue, was nothing. So then my other thought is, well, maybe you're actually going to think like, oh, well, there's more to say about Sacrificers this week, which there is. And so maybe you want to do Something Is Killing the Children first. So I am going to say, I'm going to throw this in a different direction than normal. I'm going to say you're going to go with Something That's Killing the Children instead.
You are correct, actually. Yeah.
See, I do fucking know you.
You know, yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good. I mean, to be fair, I love both. I do love the Sacrificers.
Yeah, that is true. Okay, well, this is Something That's Killing the Children, number 38, written by James Tynion IV. The artist is Werther Dell'Edera. This is going to be a quick review, I think, because nothing fucking happens in this issue.
I mean, I got a little tidbit to say.
What's that?
Well, I don't know. You want to go through your spiel here first?
Okay, I'll go through my spiel. Essentially, all that happens in this issue, Erica hides out in a treehouse after a monster hunt where she got very badly injured. A couple of kids find her, and they go and they're kind of trying to figure out what to do, and so they kind of try to help her a little bit, and then Octo is being like, "Hey, you guys should go hunt these monsters. Actually, you guys should hunt the monsters that hurt Erica." And then Erica wakes up and then she leaves, and that's kind of all that happens in this issue.
I mean, essentially, yeah. But for me, yes, not a lot happened in this issue. For me, it was the dialogue that stood out. I mean, essentially the only thing about this issue that really can stand out was the dialogue and really just her interaction with just everybody, really. I felt like it just felt super, I don't know, just very relaxed. I felt like this was much needed, honestly. Because the past, these past ones, right, where this new arc where we're just getting these one tidbit stories, right? I think this is the third one if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yep.
So the first two have been her about her hunting a monster. It's just been her attacking a monster. But this one, it's afterwards. It's her interacting with the people, And I think that's what the series the first arc, right? I feel like that's what it did really well as well. And I think that I felt like it was much needed, honestly, because like I said, the past two stories have just been mostly about her just hunting a monster. And so I think it kind of re-emphasized her character and who they were writing her as, compared to everybody else.
I would maybe agree with you if she was not unconscious for half the issue or more. Because it's not really about her. It's about these other, it's about how these other kids deal with seeing her half dead in their treehouse. We don't get much dialogue between Erica and the supporting characters. And the other thing is, the supporting characters are not even related to the monster hunt at all. They're just random fucking people.
They knew the child that got murdered.
Sure. But I just think it's because I normally agree about I'm a big fan of James Tynion's dialogue. I think it's generally fantastic. But with this one, it just felt too kind of relaxed and laid back, and I don't feel like the dialogue was as snappy as it normally is with him, and I don't feel like the supporting characters were given interesting stuff to say or do. I think the most interesting part of this issue by far was when they were talking to Octo for a little bit. That was kind of interesting. Yeah. But outside of that, and that's a pretty quick scene though. Other than that, it was just kind of this meandering, lackadaisical kind of just, very chill, relaxed issue. And sure, pacing wise, that you could argue that it's a nice kind of change of pace to kind of, slow down a little bit. But I think particularly when we're doing these kind of, very episodic, bang, 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 one and done kind of stories with this series, I think it's kind of a waste to spend an entire one on this kind of bottle episode when you could probably, if you had done this within one of the larger arcs, okay, maybe that's a different story. Maybe I feel a little bit differently about that, especially if we have more development on the supporting characters up to that point already, right? I mean, my favorite issue of this series so far is the one where she has that confrontation with Cecilia, and then has the flashback with her, and I don't remember the dude's name. I want to say it's Bill or something. I don't think that's right though. But the flashback where she's talking, and they're talking about Jessica's death, and like when she finds the horse and everything, that is kind of, I think, similar in terms of, you know, it's a slowing down of the pacing. It's just, it's very dialogue focused. But there, it's like, I care about the characters in that arc, and I think the dialogue just flowed better. So for me, I just thought this was kind of boring. The characters were not interesting enough for me to really gel with any of this. Erica was not really even in the issue that much, and so just overall, I kind of just was like, this is kind of a nothing story for me.
So I think the reason why I liked it so much is because of how chill it was, and just the dialogue just like really got to me. And yeah, overall, I really liked this one. I finished reading, then I was like, God damn, he's done it again. This series is still the best series to exist, man.
Oh my God.
It's just so good. I love it so much.
This series has blinded you.
It really has. I don't like, this is another one. Like, it's a great series, but like I don't it's another one where I generally can't explain why. I just love it so much.
Yeah.
Because even like the second arc wasn't all there. Like I
didn't really like the second arc that
love
much.
the ending that much in that one. And but I still like just coming back into it. I'm just like, God, I just can't with this series. It's just the best. But yeah, I gave it a 9.
I gave it a 6.
It's so good.
Which, by the way, is unusual for me. Even on the issues that I haven't liked as much, I've still given it like a 7, because I want to, like, you know, I want it to reach the heights that it did in the first arc, because I do not think it's been the same level of quality since that first arc. That's still by far, I think, the best. Even though my favorite individual issue of the series is from the second long arc. But I just like, and this is the first time I've given an issue of this below a 7. And this just didn't land for me.
I don't think I've given this one anything below a 7.
And it sounds like you never will at this rate.
maybe not. Oh.
All right, the next issue we're going to be talking about, it is, of course, The Sacrificers number 9, written by Rick Remender. The artist is Max Fiumara. So this one kind of is the culmination of Pigeon's kind of journey to becoming kind of a more independent character. So, you know, he's gotten out of the Sacrificers, you know, area. He's now, you know, gone back through his village. He killed that priest last issue. This issue, there's kind of two halves to it. It starts with a very kind of contemplative, reflective, you know, conversation between two of the characters, a god, and I don't think the other one is a god, but the god's partner. And I think this was probably my favorite part of the issue, because it was this conversation where we saw, I don't remember what the gods' names were, but it was like the ocean god and his wife, who was also a god. They were talking, and like the ocean god's partner was like, hey, like, you know, just you know, we're doing good and we gotta be immortal, you know, this is for the best. And the ocean god is saying like, well, yeah, like I want to help, and you know, I want to help the people that I have been, you know, protecting and all that stuff. But he also does mention, when Pigeon pops in, he mentions that he didn't know that they were sacrificing children. Obviously, he still knew they were sacrificing people, but it is showing just more depth to these characters, particularly the gods, which I think is it fleshes out the world a lot more. I think that's one of the issues with Napalm Lullaby, is that it was saying a very similar message broadly, where it's like, you know, it was a lot of conversation about, you know, some of the pitfalls of religion, and this series definitely covers that as well. But this does like give depth to the, you know, the gods, whereas Napalm Lullaby is kind of this more caricaturist-esque portrayal of them, where it's just very kind of one note. And this kind of adds a lot more depth. I just think, like, narratively, it makes for a much more interesting story. So I really liked that reflection on the ocean god's part. I think I've mentioned this with him specifically in the past. I mean, in issue number 7, he does seem to have a decent amount of depth to him. And I think it's really interesting to give more of that to the gods and kind of see more of their turmoil and internal conflict. Then we have Pigeon pop up, and it's a big fight, ultimately culminating in him killing the ocean god. I actually don't think the god's partner is also a god, because I think the god mentions something about like, you killed her and, you know, she wasn't part of this or something. And Pigeon was like, oh man, I didn't mean to kill her. Like, I just came to kill you. This is where the fight is where I had an issue with this issue, actually. I think it's a decent enough fight, but I think I wasn't entirely clear on what the issue was trying to say about Pigeon's role in this. Because I can't tell if it was trying to play it triumphantly, or if it's trying to say, like, Pigeon is going down this path a little bit too much and is kind of in danger of becoming what he hates.
Okay.
It kind of seemed like it was trying to do both, particularly when Pigeon killed the other person in the room, the God's partner. It seemed like it was maybe going that way a little bit, and I was like, yeah, lean into that, because I think that's an interesting angle to take this, especially because he has God's blood in him now. But then it kind of just ignores that and kind of hand waves it away. We don't even have to see like Pigeon's reaction to it, really, because he just has to keep fighting. And so I can't tell if it's trying to play Pigeon as this triumphant hero in this sequence, or if it's trying to portray him as he's slipping too far into this path that he's trying to follow. And I think either one of them could have worked, but I felt like they were kind of fighting each other a little bit. And so as a result, I came away from this issue not knowing what I was supposed to think about it. And I don't know what the writer is thinking about this character himself right now. I don't know like what the writer is kind of trying to portray. And as a result, I kind of came away from this issue very dissatisfied because I was like, I just don't know where this character is supposed to be at. I don't know what the arc is anymore, because I kind of feel like it lost the ball a little bit there. So I didn't like this one as much as the previous one. I still think it's decent. I think, again, some of that pontificating on the kind of nature of the gods and that kind of philosophical debate, that was all good, I think. But the actual confrontation was a little bit wonky to me.
Okay. What can I say about that? I think... Right, because I think Pigeon is just going to go after, like, every single god, right? He just went after... He was specifically mad at this one because he thought that this god, like, basically flooded the land because he didn't sacrifice himself, right? And so I think in the end, he's just going to go for, all the gods. And that point where the thing that you said where he is, like, going to become the thing that he himself, like, hates, I think it's going to end up there, yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't mean to kill this random, like, not random lady, but this god's partner.
The other person present, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, it's not even his wife. It's like she's having an affair on her husband with this god. And so the fact that she died, right? I mean, okay, first of all, I don't know what Pigeon was thinking, right? He clearly saw her in the room, then destroyed the pillar and collapsed the roof, and then he said he didn't mean to kill her. I don't know what he was expecting to happen, but that would kill a person. So, sure, Pigeon. Anyway, he kills the god, right? And so, I think, yes. I think it's going to end up the fact that, he's going to become the thing that he hates. And I think I forgot what the god he stole. He technically stole the powers from. I forgot her name. I think it is
Saluna.
Saluna, yes.
Yeah.
I think she is going to help him realize that fact eventually. I don't know.
I think he might kill her, honestly.
You think so?
Maybe.
I don't think so, because she is a different god. She tried to stop all of this when she discovered it, and she has never drank the nectar.
I don't know how much that Pigeon would distinguish that, or how much he would care, or how much he'd even know that. I don't think he knows that she tried to stop it.
No, I mean, obviously, but I think she'll be able to get through him in some way or another down the line.
Maybe.
Like, I assume she might get captured because she's, like, super weak or whatever. She'll, like, come across her at one point, and she'll be able to, like him in, like, a rampage or whatever. She'll be able to, like, she'll come across him somewhere or another, and she'll be able to, like, talk him out of something, and then some dude is going to take that chance and, like, possibly kill Pigeon or some shit. I don't fucking know. But yeah, I think it is gonna end up like you said, just him becoming the thing he hates. But besides that, I think this one was pretty good. Fight was decent, and I give it an 8.
I give it a 7. I think ultimately, if it had committed one way or the other to either being this triumphant, like Pigeon's finally gotten a god down, he's finally killed one. It's a big success for him, and he's had this triumphant hero moment, or if it had been like kind of lent into the melancholy of it, of being like, well, he killed him, but so if it had that kind of ominous, like kind of foreboding sense where it's like he's maybe going a little bit too far. If it had committed to either one of those, I think I would have liked it more. But as it stands, I'm going to give it a 7, because I just think it felt weird the way the two of them seemed to be kind of fighting within the issue.
Yeah, all right.
Next up, we're going to head on over to the Department of Truth here. So this is what I made Sebastian read this week. I am talking about the current issue number 23. Sebastian is going to be talking about just the first issue. So you're going to get two sides of it here. What if this is a good series to jump into and start reading, and also where we're at currently and if it's still good. So I'm going to throw to you, Sebastian, first. So you can talk about that, and then I'll talk about the current issue.
Yeah. All right. Well, Okay, so in the first issue, from what I remember, I read this one pretty early on in the week here, so bear with me here. I'm gonna be rambling a bit here. Because from what I remember, some dude, let me see if I can. Okay, Cole Turner is his name.
Yep.
He witnessed something. At first,
Yes.
it's not said what, but he's like in like an interrogation room with these two other people. Who it's Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yes, it is.
And Ruby, I believe is her name.
Yep.
So yes, they are both really interrogating Cole Turner and basically asking him what he witnessed and like basically just that. What did he witness? And Cole kind of rambles. He's just like stuttering for a bit because he's like, yeah, you guys, I know you guys are in here. Like, I'm gonna die. You guys are gonna kill me. Whatever. Lee Harvey Oswald, basically is like, listen, we're not killing you. We're basically recruiting you here. We just want to know what you saw, though. And so he tells them that I think Cole's the reporter. I think, if I remember correctly.
No, he was working. I think his boyfriend is a reporter, but he's working for the CIA, or he was.
Well, anyway, and he was basically doing like undercover work, I think, for like this like white supremacist group, I think. But anyway, they had this like meeting thing, and he went, and his goal was to like meet like the two leaders of the group, and they were the ones that actually approached him, and were like, you know who we are, and he was like, yes, like you're blah blah blah. And they started talking for a bit. I don't remember what exactly they talked about, but eventually they were like, all right, we want to show you something. And so they like put him on this plane where he saw the girl with X's for eyes.
Yep.
And that like freaked him out a lot. And eventually they got to like this snowy area. I don't know if it was like in like Alaska. Alaska's not snowy, is it?
No, Alaska is snowy.
Alaska's snowy, but I think it's also green in parts, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, but it's also like about as far north as you can go in North America. So like it's definitely depending on when you go, it's gonna be very snowy there.
I'm just gonna say Alaska. I really don't know though, and I don't think it ever says either. But it was somewhere snowy and it looked like mountainous. And I guess so. It wasn't just him on the plane. It was a bunch of other people, and they took everybody out of the plane, killed everybody except for him. Asked I remember the dude that killed everybody. He's like, "Are you Cole Turner?" And he's like, "Yes." And he said something. I don't remember what. And then that's kind of where it ends, I think. And that's when Lee Harvey Oswald and Ruby are like, "Yep, well, like you're hired, welcome."
Right.
And they're like, "Yeah, we work for the Department of Truth," and that's where it ends.
So, couple things to just correct that I do remember. I don't remember for sure that the group might have very well been white supremacists, but I also know they were flat earthers. That's what they were trying to show Cole. That they went to the edge of the earth and they're like, this is proof that the earth is flat.
Yes.
Because essentially,
I remember something else big. The reason Department of Truth is a thing. I remember.
Right. So that's what I was about to go into. The Department of Truth. The whole point of this series is that the Department of Truth is there to essentially prevent conspiracy theories from becoming real. Because in this series, it's kind of all about the power of collective belief. Where if enough people believe something, it will become real. So this group of flat earthers, there were enough of them there in one place. It didn't make the earth flat, but it kind of bent the kind of lines of reality so that they could still kind of go to this place where the earth was flat, but it's like kind of shifting into another reality where the earth was flat for a split second. And then it didn't, get enough kind of belief to set the momentum going to actually make the earth completely flat. But it got enough so that in this one place, you can kind of bend reality just a little bit so where it seemed like it was.
Yeah.
So there's that. And also, the Babylon is her name, the demon lady in red with the X's for eyes. She's also there at the flat earth area when Cole gets hired by Ruby. I think it's Ruby who's the person who kills all the flat earther people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if I remember correctly. And what's important about her being there, and I'll get into this a little bit later on. I don't want to spoil too much, but she shows up there, and I remember for a fact, this is the only thing she ever says, is she pops out the "Do you see? It's important that you see" line to Cole, and then she kind of just disappears from memory. So that's what I remember about it. But yeah, that's issue number 1.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you have your review and thoughts on it?
Oh, am I rating it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Should keep all that silence in. No, honestly, it was good. While I did really enjoy this one, genuinely, I thought it was very interesting. It didn't pull me in as much as some of these Killed in Children. For this one though, I definitely will be catching up. Just definitely not as fast. But I did really like it. I did find it very interesting. James Timming the fourth. Great writer.
And also Martin Simmons is the artist. I don't think I mentioned that, but this is the same writer-artist team as was on Universal Monsters Dracula.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Yes. I definitely noticed the art similarity there.
Yeah.
But I really liked this one actually. Thought it was very interesting. The whole idea that like if enough people believe the conspiracy, it actually becomes true. I thought that's a very super cool idea.
They take that to some dark places.
I assume. Yeah, I remember you told me that. Yeah.
Issue 3 in particular, issue 3's fucked up.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. I'm definitely gonna be going forward with this one. Definitely not as fast. Like I don't know if I'll catch up by the time the 24th issue comes out.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely see. Maybe I will. So yeah. But besides that, I really like this one actually, and I'd give it. This is a tough one. I'll give it a 9. Honestly. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Pretty very good. Very good.
Yeah. Well, I read issue number 23, which is the current issue. I only just recently got up to date with this. This is the second time this has happened on this show, where because I did it with somebody who's doing the children last year, where I just binge read an entire James Tynion series right before the new issue dropped. So before the new art started. So I just recently got up to date with this, pretty much like a week, probably 2 weeks before the new issue. And for those who don't know, this series has been on hiatus since November of 2022, so it has been quite a while since the last issue of this series. Thankfully, it sounds like, according to James Tynion, it sounds like it's just going full steam ahead pretty much until it ends. I'm sure there'll still be some gaps between arcs, but it's not going on like an indefinite hiatus again, supposedly. So that's good. And so this is my pick of the week for sure. I don't want to spoil too much, but this is where we are starting to get because the entire series is building up about like what happened. Because that's one of the first kind of major conspiracy theories in the real world was the whole JFK murder conspiracy of like, was there another shooter, like who really killed him, and like I think that's kind of, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory that's still kind of widely circulated, but I know at the time that was kind of a huge one. And so this is starting to go into a detail on that. And again, this, very fictionalized version of it. So we don't see the actual point where Lee shoots Kennedy, but we see the moments leading like pretty much directly up to it. So we have that, and it's kind of it's that part, right? And it's kind of split in half. So there's that part kind of bookending each end of the issue, and then the middle part is kind of showing how Lee got recruited to the Department of Truth in the first place. Because I think this is true in reality, is that Lee Harvey Oswald did spend some time in Soviet Russia as like an undercover agent. I think that is like legitimately true from what I understand.
Yeah. And
I'm
sure he was a soldier, and that's why he knew how to like use the sniper or whatever.
Right. And this is in the Department of Truth. It's saying that he got recruited to kind of go undercover in Russia as a Department of Truth agent to try and it's a long story again. Like it's hard to kind of get into this without just talking about the whole series. But there is a rival organization to the Department of Truth there's a Russian version of it, and so he went to infiltrate that and kind of brings that stuff back to the Department of Truth. So ultimately, that's kind of showing it shows kind of the way he was recruited there, and then bookended by the moments leading directly up to him shooting JFK. However, Babylon, the creepy lady in red, she plays a big part in it. She shows up, and I'm not going to go into kind of how that culminates at the end of this issue, but it's creepy as fuck, man. When she pops up, I just like comics. It's really hard to pull off horror effectively in comics because it's like you're just looking at static images, and it's not like you're kind of seeing a movie play out where there's jump scares and stuff. Like you can't really jump scare anybody in a comic, and it's not like a video game where you have to like you as the player have to consciously make the decision to move farther into the horror section. But I think this comic creepy as fuck. Like it's so incredibly impressive that the creative team has managed to make a comic this fucking scary. And when she shows up, that's where it really kind of the horror part comes in. And she does drop the "do you see it's important that you see" line, which without again going into too many spoilers or anything, she's kind of there whenever there's a really massive like world changing event about to happen. So, every time she shows up, it brings this huge weight to it. And that line that she says, that's the only line she ever says in the entire series up to this point. It's just creepy. It's weird. There's been some theories like within the series that characters have like theorized about who she is and what her deal is, but none of it's been confirmed. It's all just speculation. I kind of hope it stays that way because that's more interesting that way, I think. And so, I loved this. I thought it was great. This is the first issue that I've read with the series as it's actually dropping. And so I gave this a 10. I think that's a little bit inflated, but I am going to keep it there because I would say like the part where we see the origin of Lee joining the Department of Truth, I think was a little bit less interesting. But I think, first of all, the holy shit moment I felt when Babylon showed up was just crazy. I was just like, it was so like, I don't know. It just was such a intense, like visceral, oh my God, this like shit's going down. Also, this is starting to like pay off mysteries that have been set up in the series since issue number 1. And again, just like it's creepy, and I think it was really exciting to read this issue, in a single issue format right when it dropped, as opposed to just because I read the rest of it in trade, and I kind of binged the rest of the series. So just a really like fun and exciting and creepy reading experience that I loved. And so pick of the week, 10 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah. No, very, very, honestly, very good series from what I read.
Okay, do we want to go into Absolute Power or Infinity Watch next?
Honestly, let's just do Infinity Watch. It's just the one.
Okay. So this is the Thanos Annual #1, written by Derek Landy and Salvador LaRocca, and then there's a backup story with Sarah Pichelli as the artist, although Derek Landy is still the writer. So this is the start of the Infinity Watch event, which for all intents and purposes is, I would say this is this year's Contest of Chaos, right? In the sense that it's a smaller event. It's 9 issues, as was Contest of Chaos, and it unfolds solely across the annual issues of a bunch of different series, starting with this one, Thanos Annual. So I went into this issue really ready to fucking hate it. I was prepared to tear this issue to shreds. But in reality, I think it's pretty decent, actually. I didn't mind this one. That was totally fine. I don't think it was amazing. And I've read the next issue in this series, the Amazing Spider-Man one, and that is significantly worse. So I'm still not 100% convinced by this event, but I think this first issue was solid. It essentially follows at the end of that Thanos series, which I didn't finish, but Sebastian did. Death got like turned into an Infinity Stone.
Yes.
And Thanos now has that stone. So he is trying to use the new Death Stone, but like Death is not having it. Death is like, no, I'm not going to kill people in this Death Stone form. So Thanos is like, okay, well, the Infinity Stones are always more powerful when you have a bunch of them together. So I'm going to go find the other Infinity Stones. And actually, I was thinking, I nearly thought about titling this episode when I heard that premise. I never thought about titling this episode, oh, great, Thanos is after the Infinity Stones again. And, to a degree, it is trite and it is overplayed. And this is like all this character is known for. But at the same time, I do think because essentially he goes to this like cafe and he meets a couple of the Infinity Stones who have now, they have bonded, like symbiote style, they've bonded to a host. And so now the Infinity Stones are people. So we meet 2 of them in this issue, or 3 of them we meet in this issue. We meet Star, who's the Reality Stone. We meet Quantum, who is the Space Stone. And we meet Overtime, who is the Time Stone. So I think that is, again, I wish that Thanos was doing something more original than going after Infinity Stones. But the fact that they are all people now, that does help. It does make it feel more fresh. Yes. And like a different kind of spin on this story. So they have a conversation in the cafe. Thanos captures Star. Quantum gets away, but he captures Star, and he does some experiments on her and kind of like cuts her open and extracts the Reality Stone from her. And that's when Quantum and Overtime show up. And Overtime, I guess, is able to rewind Star's person, but not necessarily time itself. But maybe he does. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's just her person, though, and like resurrect her. But then I don't know what happened to the stone then, though, because
he grabbed he froze time, grabbed the stone. He had it in his hand, and he was right next to Star or whatever. And then he I guess rerouted it again.
Sure.
Like putting it back in there or whatever. But I don't know. She came back to life, right? Because when Thanos extracted the stone, right? Like she died.
Yeah. So she's back to life, and they have kind of a conversation on the ship. Thanos, I liked this sequence because it showed Thanos' kind of resourcefulness, and it kind of walked through his steps of he has fought people who have wielded Infinity Stones before, and so he kind of knows how to deal with them. and it goes kind of step by step through his process of like clocking which one he needs to take out first, and then like the method he has to do so for each of them. And so they lose pretty much just like completely. And Thanos is kind of gloating, and he's like, I got the Death Stone, and I'm not gonna let you kill anybody now, Death, even though you got more power now, just with all the stones are together. And then the Death Stone is like, fuck you, Thanos, essentially, and just like shoots out to Earth. And then Quantum is able to teleport the other two out of there as well. So they all land on Earth, and so now Thanos has none of the stones, including the Death Stone. And then we go kind of straight into the backup story where the Death Stone finds, well, it ultimately ends up resurrecting Phil Coulson from who has been dead for a while. I guess Deadpool killed him, which I was not aware of, or Deadpool was the last person to kill him, at least.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
So, yeah, I think they mentioned that in the Amazing Spider-Man Annual, is that Deadpool was the one who killed him last. And so it's Kyle Richmond, who's also known as Nighthawk, but not 616 Nighthawk. I'm pretty sure this is a Nighthawk from the parallel like Heroes Reborn universe, who was like created by Mephisto. So, but he's there. He's searching for Infinity Stones. He wants to revert 616 universe to that Heroes Reborn universe, which was part of the Jason Aaron Avengers run from a few years back. And so he sees the Death Stone, and he's like, this shouldn't be possible. Like, there's only like 6 Infinity Stones. Like, there can't be a new one. They're created at the start of the universe. And then, yeah, the Death Stone resurrects Coulson, and that's where it ends.
Yep.
So again, I really, really, really was prepared to really just tear into this and fucking hate it. But I didn't. There's some stuff that I didn't love. I think some of the, like, you know, some of I'm not sure if I love the personifications of the Infinity Stones. They're new to me, so I'm giving them some time to kind of grow on me. And some of them are okay. I think, like, Star is kind of fun. It's mostly, to be honest, Overtime I'm not a huge fan of.
For me, it was Star. She seems super, like, arrogant.
I don't know. But I think that also, like, it's kind of, it probably comes from the fact that she can, like, change reality and all that stuff. I think I think with both her and Quantum, I think the characterizations worked within the Stones, and Hector probably did as well. Overtime probably did as well. I think for me, it's just like, again, having read ASM Annual, Hector is a big player in that Overtime, and I didn't think he was very good in that. So I think that maybe that's just the fact that I also read that one that's kind of skewing that.
But also, if you think about it, right, this Hector we got in this one, is the future Hector,
right?
Too.
That is true. Yeah,
and I assume the one in ASM Annual is the present one.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
I do think, though, what works in this issue is that I think Thanos is actually characterized very well here. That was a problem I had in the previous Thanos run. If you listen to us talking about that, you know I had some problems with that. Mostly, a lot of it was due to the Illuminati as well. I didn't think they were written in character very well. But like the fucking Thanos truck. I know Sebastian loves the Thanos truck, but I just thought, like, stuff like that I thought was just so dumb. And I was worried it was going to go that way. Because when I was flipping through the issue and I saw Thanos sitting down with two people in a cafe, I was like, oh God, here we go again. But I think it was fine. I think it worked okay. And I quite like the stuff they're building in the backup story with the Death Stone. I think that is quite interesting. So I am not writing this event off completely anymore. However, I'm still not 100% on board with that. I really I didn't love ASM Annual, and we'll talk about that next week. But I think I'm kind of back and forth on it, because I do think this was a solid first chapter. But I'm not sure that the event will follow the quality of that. So I don't know. I think this was a decent start, but I'm still cautious about where this is going, I think.
No, yeah, to be fair, that is fair, because it's like, well, it does bring new freshness. The fact that, like, instead of Thanos hunting down like stones, he's actually got to hunt down like actual people that are like wielding the powers of the stones, you know? And I feel like it's different compared to just like how we've always seen Thanos. Like, yeah, he's still chasing down the fucking Infinity Stones, you know? Like, that's, like you said, that's like all he's known for at this point. Like, that's all his character is just Infinity Stones. Strongest being in the universe after that, and then not much else really. But yeah, that brings new freshness. I would say, I really didn't like Star. Yeah, I didn't really like her character that much. She's like super arrogant, to the point where it literally got her killed in this one. Technically, it's just thanks to Overtime. Like, she came back to life, but otherwise, she literally just. I'm just counting it. She fucking died.
I think why that doesn't bother me, though, is because I think, like, the story is aware that she's arrogant and out of her depth, and I think it is making strides to, like, character arc kind of do a thing. So it doesn't bother me right now. If it stays that way the whole time, maybe I'll have more of an issue with it. But
no, yeah, exactly. But it's just like
like reality realistically is like one of the most powerful ones too. Like she could
Yeah.
have easily done something to Thanos, but no, she like basically wiped herself out in the process of Thanos by like
Right.
'cause, like she turned the floor in the cafe to lava, and
Yeah.
because of that, she couldn't breathe because of the lava fumes,
Right.
and it was so hot. So she had to turn it like off, and that's when he just like he knocked her out, I think, with the Death Stone. But yeah, I genuinely didn't mind this one either. I thought it was good. I thought we were both honestly just gonna rip into it because like even like as much as I love the Thanos truck, that small little mini series just was not that good. But yeah, genuinely, I didn't think this was a bad start to this at all.
Yeah.
I thought it was actually very good. Not very good, but I thought it was good. To the point where yeah, I didn't really mind it, and kind of looking forward to it. You're kind of pooping on ASM, and I haven't read that one yet, but I don't know. We'll see how much I like that one. So yeah, honestly, not that bad. I gave it a 7.
I am gonna tentatively also give it a 7, although I'm really kind of hovering between a 6 and a 7. But I think I'll leave it at 7. I think I'm letting kind of my not loving ASM kind of affect this one a little bit. When I do remember, like after reading, I was like, that was pretty good. So I think I'm gonna keep it at a 7. But yeah, I'm keeping an infinity watch on this event. All right, and we're gonna move into the third of our 4 events that we're talking about this week, which is Absolute Power. I don't know which one we should start with. It doesn't really matter because I think they're pretty disconnected. So I guess let's start with Absolute Power Ground Zero #1.
No, we have to start with Superman number 15.
We already talked about that. It's a 9. It's good. It's good. It's a 9. Fucking does that count? Is that listed as part of it?
It is. It's a prologue.
Oh my god. I don't know if you can have one issue be a part of 2 events. I don't know if that checks out. Anyway, Absolute Power Ground Zero #1, which is not technically part of the main event yet, but it is kind of building up to it a little bit. We got 3 stories.
It set everything up in this one, yeah.
Yeah. So we got 3 series for this one. We have, or 3 stories for this one, rather. We have the first one, which is written by Nicole Maines, and the artist is Skylar Patridge. That's the Dreamer story. We have a failsafe story. Kind of, it's like a failsafe, but also another character whose name is Time Commander. It's his story as well, yes. Which is written by Mark Waid and Chip Zdarsky, and the artist is V. Ken Marion. And then we have the third story, which is written by Joshua Williamson, and the artist is Gleb Melnikov. That is the Brainiac Queen setup story. Yes. So the first one, again, it's the Dreamer story, where essentially it's pretty simple. She just goes and captures one of her now former friends for Waller. We don't know why Waller needs this other person, but Waller needs them for some reason. So and then it's Dreamer's friend whose name is Jay Nakamura, being like, "What the fuck, Dreamer? Like, why are you doing this? My family's dead. My country's like been invaded by Waller. I fucking hate you," which is totally fair. And that's kind of all that is. And the Dreamer's like, "I'm gonna find a way to stop Waller," which is what she's been saying for I don't know 6 months now or something. Then we have the Time Commander and Failsafe story where Waller is able to resurrect this guy named Time Commander. He's a time traveler. He's got time travel tech. He cannot he doesn't have the power to time travel himself, but he can use like the tech. He's invented technology that allows him to time travel. And so essentially he is recruited by Waller to reverse the damage on Failsafe so that Failsafe and I guess probably Zur is back online, which does explain. I know we mentioned last week how the fuck is Zur gonna come back because Zur is gone and Failsafe. I get like they can rebuild Failsafe, but how do they get Zur back in him? So this seems to be how they do that.
Just time travel really.
Yeah, and so Time Commander tries to kind of outsmart Waller and time travel out of there, but Waller anticipated that, of course. So she's kind of like quantum locked the area. And made it so that he can only time travel back to the start of his life in that compound that Waller is operating out of. And then at the end, he manages to get Failsafe up and running. And then Waller's like, "Sweet, now do this to 6 other robots." So I'm assuming are the Amazo robots.
It seems like them, yeah.
Yeah. And then the third story is the Superman one, which is, Superman's not really in it at all, actually. Never mind. No. It's the Brainiac Queen one, where Waller finds Brainiac's ship, or the Brainiac Queen's ship when it crash landed on Earth. And then But the Brainiac Queen's memories have been wiped, and her personality has been wiped. All of her entire being has been wiped. And so Waller plugs her into a simulation and also plugs herself into that simulation where she acts as the Brainiac Queen's mom and is essentially saying, like, all these superheroes are going to, like, kill everybody. We need to stop them and like, defend our home. And so, you know, the simulation, like, they're on a farm and they spend 20 years in the simulation. It's 20 hours to the outside world, but it's 20 years to them in the simulation. And, like, during that time, like, a bunch of superheroes are attacking the farm and everything, and they're fighting them off and everything. And then at the end, Waller unplugs from the simulation and wakes up the Brainiac Queen and is like, come on, let's go and fucking kill all the superheroes. And that's where that one ends. So,
yep.
Across the board, I think they're all pretty good. I think the Dreamer one is the weakest. That's just kind of based on the fact that nothing really happens in that one.
No, that one was a bit more, like, sad because you know truly that Dreamer is trying to stop Waller. And just the fact that her friend is, like, blaming her for everything that has just happened, which, I mean, understandable. Like, his mom just died, and it's, like, because of Dreamer, realistically, that she did. And so, but yeah, it's just the fact that, like, she is trying to, like, stop Waller, but, like, she has failed miserably every single time.
Right. Yeah. I think, though, I mean, I still don't think that story is bad. That's like a 7 out of 10 for me. I think it's still totally fine.
Yeah.
And then the failsafe story was, I think, solid enough. I think it was pretty cool. And same with the Brainiac Queen story. I think none of them are, like, amazing, but I think they all do a fairly good job of setting up where absolute power is kind of going to be and getting the universe kind of that last step to the point where it needs to be to really start absolute power. Also, very cool cover. Maybe my favorite cover of the week. That Dan Moore cover just rocks. So, I think good story. I don't really count this as, like, really the start of absolute power, but
no,
I think it does do a good job of setting things up for it.
Yes, it definitely filled in a lot of holes. Not say a lot of holes, but really, like, our biggest hole was, like, basically how is Failsafe and Brainiac Queen, like, fit into this, right? Because, like, at the end of like House of Brainiac Queen, like, was definitely not on Waller's side. Like, it was purely just like yes, they kind of had the same goal of, like, killing all the superheroes, but, like, ultimately she wanted to, like, destroy everything, and that's obviously not what Waller. That's exactly what Waller was against, which is why she's doing all of this in the first place. So the fact that, like, that got filled in, the failsafe thing got filled in, a bit lazily, honestly, like, just time travel. But I don't know. I've never heard of this Time Commander guy, so his powers work interestingly.
Does he even have powers, or is he just, like, really good at making time travel tech?
Yeah, or is it just the tech? You know, that's actually a good point. I actually don't know.
I think it is just the tech.
I think, you think you might be right, actually. And then, the Dreamer one, like, I had already talked about that one, but, honestly, I think pretty good so far, actually. I'm still ultimately curious we obviously understand why Waller is doing all of this, but I'm curious as to how she plans on achieving all of it still.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Do you want to hear a theory? I heard a theory today when I was at the comic shop. The theory is, as far as I know, this is not confirmed, so it's not a spoiler, but the theory is that this is not actually Earth 2 Waller, and that it's actually Earth 3 Waller, which is the Earth that got destroyed. And that she has transferred over to this universe in place of Earth 2 Waller, and that's why she's, like, so gung-ho about this.
Okay.
I don't know if I believe that, but it's certainly a theory that I heard.
I could see, but realistically, I could still see it being Earth 2 Waller after going to Earth 3, seeing all of that, and her coming back and wanting to, like, I could still just see it anyway. So that's why I'm not too much of a fan of that one, because ultimately it's so much in her character to, like, do that, even if she is from an alternate Earth or whatever. Yeah. It's still so much in her character to just do this, even if this was ours. So I don't know. I'm not too much of a fan of that theory, actually.
Well, anyway, I give it an 8. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8. Yeah.
Okay, next up is going to be Green Arrow, which is kind of part of Absolute Power, kind of. It's listed as a prelude tie-in thing, so I guess it is part of it. But written by Joshua Williamson, the artist is Amante Nahuelpan. So I have similar problems with this one as I did in the last one, in that the story is just so fucking decompressed in this series at this point that it feels like nothing happens issue to issue. Even though something kind of big does happen in this issue, which is Ollie officially starts working for Waller. Now, in what capacity, it's still a little bit unclear. He does not want to like be doing field missions for her, it seems. He doesn't want to be like too involved, but he is still working with her. And that ultimately culminates in a confrontation with Roy, where Roy goes to break out his, I don't know if they're still together or if it's his ex-wife, but it's his either wife or ex-wife. He and his daughter go to break her out.
Yes.
And when they do that, right as they're about to escape and like drop down the building, do like a rappel down the building, Ollie shows up and it has a conversation with Roy, and kind of, to me, seems to be like saying to Roy, like, hey, I'm working with her, yes, but I don't really agree. This is just the best way I can try and like infiltrate this operation to make sure that Waller does not go insane. Like, to me, this feels like he does not want to work for her. He just knows that the most good he can do is if he is part of Waller's operation to try and kind of keep an eye on it and negate as much of the damage as he can from actually, you know, working for her. And so that culminates in Ollie kicking Roy out the window, but which seems like it's like, oh man, he's fucking betraying Roy. But to me, it's like pretty clearly he knew that Waller's team was going to capture everybody there.
Yeah.
And so in kicking him out like that, it makes it look like he's angry at Roy and that he's, you know, like trying to fight Roy. But in actuality, it's just giving Roy a means of escape.
And I mean, like, afterwards, Peacemaker did confront Green Arrow, being like, you were supposed to kill him. And he's like, oh, my bad. Like, I let my emotions get the best of me. It won't happen again. So, like, yeah, that's a fair point of what you're making. Yeah. Yeah.
And that is also, to be fair, part of that comes from the fact that I've also read The Flash this week, and the whole and I think we've already talked about this by this point, although we haven't recorded the Flash review yet, but I'm pretty sure at this point in the episode I will have already reviewed The Flash. In that issue, it's Ollie in the bat suit versus Barry.
Oh.
So yeah. So and the way that they have that interaction there makes me think that that's also the case. So that's kind of where the issue ends. I think like it's good. I think it's good enough. And I do think, like, to be fair, it felt more consequential than last issue did, where absolutely nothing fucking happened, really, other than just the end of the fight with Merlin. This felt like a little bit more substantial. I do still think, though, the decompression on display in this series is kind of wild. And it's a little bit, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but I think as an issue on its own, this works well enough. And I think, you know, I do think it sets up Ollie in an interesting position for absolute power. But I do think, like, some of the decompression is a little bit much, I think, at times. So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So yeah, Green Arrow, I don't remember their whole deal, like his whole deal with Waller and Merlin thing. But, like, in this issue, he does tell Roy that, like, Waller doesn't have anything on him. Like,
right.
This is just, right, like, he actually just believes in what Waller's doing, and that, like, they have to be kept in check and whatever, and before he, like, kicks him out the window and stuff like that, you know. And then so, like, when Roy goes back to, like, the Arrow family, I'll call it, you know, and he told him all this, and they were like, well, he's got to be lying, and Roy was like, well, no, like, I looked him in his eyes, and, like, he truly believed every word he said,
right?
You know. And so, to your point, at first, I wanted to say, like, yeah, Green Arrow, like, he genuinely believes in what he's saying. Like, after the Justice League disbanded, like, from after, like, he was, like, gone or whatever, I don't know. Like, you know, Justice League disbanded, like, he doesn't have, like, really a family anymore, except for he just recovered his Arrow family back.
Right.
I genuinely don't think he'd want to lose that so quickly already, you know, after he just got it back and he just fought so long and hard for that. So, to your point, yes, I do think he is undercover. But he's got to know, like, Waller definitely can't trust him simply because of that fact. Like, I don't think she'll ever really, truly trust him, no matter what he does.
No.
So for him to be able to, like, it'd be impossible for him to, like, sneak intel out or whatever, you know? Like, ultimately, I think what he's doing is just pointless, you know?
Sure. But I actually think, to that point, I think Waller is also arrogant enough to not care. And if she thinks that Ollie would be more beneficial, even if she knows she can't trust him, I think she'd still throw him into situations where he could end up actually doing some damage. Just because she doesn't think, like, I think she also underestimates Ollie. Because I think everybody kind of does. He's the bow and arrow guy.
Fair.
I think she's arrogant enough to believe that she can still keep him under control, and that if he's beneficial, she'll still kind of come out on top anyway. I think that's her probably thought process there.
Okay, fair enough then. Fair enough. Yeah. Besides that, really though, at the very, very end, Connor was like, "I'll be Green Arrow if he doesn't want to be Green Arrow anymore."
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. And Connor, by the way, not Connor, Superboy Connor, but like Connor, Ollie's son, Connor.
Yeah. He's gonna be like the new Green Arrow, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it though.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought this was fine. I think the whole, I don't know. Yeah, just that conversation between Roy and Ollie at like the window or whatever was like the biggest thing about this one.
Right.
And so I think that part, definitely it could definitely convince people because obviously if we are right about what Ollie is doing, it definitely convinced basically his family. But I think that conversation itself was like, I don't know, it was all right, I guess. I don't know, man. I don't really have a lot to say on this one. Not a lot. Not too much really has happened. But yeah, I don't know, man. It was all right. Yeah, I'll just say it was all right. I'll give it a 7 as well.
Yeah, I am also giving it a 7. I don't think I'm going to be on this book for much longer, though. I think after Absolute Power, I'm probably going to drop it. Not even because I think it's bad, but also the writer, Joshua Williamson, I'm pretty sure it's confirmed that he will be leaving the book after Absolute Power. So, and he's kind of one of the main reasons that I'm reading this. So if we get another good writer on afterwards, then yeah, I'll keep going with it, obviously. But I think it's possible that I will not be sticking around on Green Arrow much longer.
All right, yeah.
And that would lead us into the Blood Hunt block for this episode. Starting with, I believe this is the first one that's listed in the checklist, Union Jack the Ripper Blood Hunt number 2.
And honestly, checklist is whack.
Yeah, it is. It's fucked. But it's in the back of all the official Marvel Blood Hunt books, so that's what I'm going to go off of, even though it's completely wrong. So this is issue number 2, as I said, written by Cavan Scott, and the artist is Kev Walker. Now, a couple things about this issue. First of all, so I didn't like the last issue. I didn't think it was terrible, but I didn't really like it. I thought it was kind of boring, and I didn't love any of the characters really. And the art was cool in parts, but I was just like, whatever. This issue, I think genuinely is quite a solid step up. I don't think it's amazing, but I do think it's definitely better than the first issue. That being said, I don't know what the fuck was happening in this issue.
No.
I don't know if I'm just an idiot, but it felt like it was jumping between scenes so cool. I understand the broad strokes of this issue where Union Jack and Mara are talking to some vampire, and he's the vampire that's serving the Lord of Manchester, which is the vampire that rules all of Manchester. And and that vampire's talking about how Bulldog, the other vampire that's been kept in the facility that they're at, so that Jack can try and cure him. He was a hero when Jack wasn't at the start of the vampire invasion. That's how he got turned. Is he went out there and tried to save a bunch of people, and he got turned. And there's a point with other people who I'm assuming were part of the same crew from last issue, where one of them tried to fend off a vampire horde to save some of the others, and then he ended up dying. And that was a cool scene. I like that. I think scene to scene, I like a lot of the scenes in this, but the way they're kind of connected and the connective tissue is really weird. And it felt like, and maybe it's just because I don't remember half the characters, but it felt like just characters popped up out of nowhere in this issue who were not in the last issue. And the dialogue and the scenes were jumping around. I didn't know who was talking to who a lot of the time. Across scenes, I thought some people in one scene were talking to somebody who was not even in the same fucking scene as them. I just really could not wrap my head around some of that. So other than that, there's kind of a lot of fighting in the facility, and it ends with Union Jack getting a pep talk from Mara, and then him and Bulldog are all right, let's go save some people, and let's cure Bulldog, and let's cure everybody, and that's kind of how the issue ends. So a lot of it was a big kind of action issue, and some explanation of kind of how Bulldog got turned and everything. So I liked this quite a lot. I think the art was cool. I think a lot of stuff really worked in this. Again, scene to scene, I liked it. I just don't know what happened in it. And again, broadly speaking, I could follow the structure of the issue, but just dialogue wise, I couldn't tell who was who and who was talking to who, and that kind of really confused me. So, but I like this issue quite a lot, actually. Now all of a sudden I'm kind of on board with this series. I think it was kind of cool. I still don't like the first issue, but I think this is a big step up. So I don't mind this one, actually.
Yeah, honestly, I don't remember. I was having the hardest time trying to remember what happened in the first one. Some of these characters, especially since we didn't right out the gate, we didn't really start with Jack. We started with the family, and I was like,
that confused me.
I was like, I was trying to remember so hard. I was like, okay, why do I care about these people right now?
Yeah.
Like, who are they?
I
And
assumed
then-
that the vampire that was after them was one of their other group that got turned, but I couldn't remember. So I was like, who the fuck is this Edward vampire?
Exactly. And so like they were like, don't make me fight you. I'm like, okay, but who is that guy?
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Right.
remember. And you
Yeah.
know, like one of the group dies or whatever. Like he gets like torn apart. She throws like holy water grenades, and
yeah.
I think right before they get attacked, that's when Jack and the police lady show up. I don't remember exactly.
I don't think they show up at that place at all. I think they're separate for the entire issue.
I know they're in like the same like general facility. I just don't.
They
I
are.
think they're in different rooms.
But they're in a
obviously,
different
but
room, I think. Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember them showing up at the very end to save them, but whatever. Yeah, and then we go to like the Jack and the police lady who's talking to. I see that's the part that confused me, right? Because there's
Exactly.
like obviously there's Bulldog right in the pool behind them
Right.
or whatever, and then there's the vampire that's talking to like them essentially.
Yeah.
But I think there's another vampire in Bulldog's
must
mind.
be. Well, man, I
right?
don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Right, because I think there's the vampire that Jack and the police lady you're talking to is the one that
Right.
almost kills Jack towards the end, right?
Yes, I think, yeah.
And then I think there's another one in Bulldog's mind, the one that actually turned him. He's trying to basically get
Oh,
him
yes.
to kill
Yeah.
Jack towards the end, like
Yeah.
like obviously, because like
Right.
Bulldog
That's
still has
the-
like some semblance of like his
Yeah.
thoughts, and so he's trying to like basically convince him that like Jack has like abandoned him and like he should just like go and kill him or
Right.
whatever. And eventually, like Bulldog like snaps out of it and he's like, "No, Jack is trying to help me." And so
Right.
he like saves Jack towards the end.
Yeah, that vampire in his mind, that's the King of Manchester, I believe. That the other vampire was like, it's my master,
Yeah.
and
Exactly.
he's gonna, yeah.
But I thought
Yeah.
the entire time it was that person that almost killed Jack, and he was just
Right.
like somehow talking like 3 times in one thing. And I was
Yeah.
like, there was
And
just
then there's the
so
other
much.
vampire that's going after the family, and I kept getting that one
Yeah.
confused with the one talking to Jack. So yeah, I was
Me
really,
too. So I was like, what?
really-
Like,
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Oh man,
Yeah.
there was a lot of like main vampires in this one for some reason. Like
Yeah.
between like the 3 store. Yeah.
Right. And while I like the art, I don't think that it does a good job of distinguishing which is which. Yeah.
No, it's like all the speech bubbles are like the same. For the vampire,
Right.
it's like jagged, and then for the people, it's
Yeah.
just like regular speech bubbles. So it's like, okay, differentiate this a little bit more.
Yeah. That being said, I like that idea of an 8.
It really.
All right,
Jesus.
I'm gonna say a 7. It's
Yeah,
8's probably a little bit
I-
generous considering how confusing it was.
Honestly, like I just really don't like. I think I just don't care for the character enough to like really care about
Yeah,
the story
that's fair.
itself. You know, I don't
Yeah.
I don't find Jack like this Union Jack guy like that interesting at all.
Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, the other like
Kind of just a
regular
dick most of the
characters.
issue as well.
Yeah, I get that's his character, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I think if I from the first issue, I thought the police lady was way more interesting than
Yeah.
Jack was. And in this issue, I didn't like care for any of them actually.
Yeah. She doesn't do anything in this issue.
Does nothing.
Yeah.
Like so yeah, realistically I didn't care for this one at all. I gave it a 6.
Okay, fair enough. Next up is going to be Vengeance of the Moon Knight number 6, written by Blood Hunt architect Jed McKay, and the artist is Dev Promanik. I think this is fine. It's good enough. I like some parts of it. I like the because this issue, essentially all this issue is the Midnight Mission going around and saving people.
Yes.
There is one part where they run into Yulon, who is a vampire from the Jed McKay Moon Knight run, who like runs Chinatown, and she's like the vampire kingpin of Chinatown. So she shows up and is like, "Hey, join me in Chinatown." But they're like, "No, we need to protect all the other people and, you know, make sure the Midnight Mission is safe and everything." Other than that, it's just them going around saving people. They have one person that they try to save, but that person won't let them because they're vampires. And then ultimately Reese goes again and convinces this guy to come and go to the mission with them. But other than that, it's just the Midnight Mission on the streets, like fighting some vampires and trying to save people. And so I think like it does a good job, I guess, of showing kind of the on-the-ground impact of Blood Hunt to New York, which we haven't really seen too much of, actually, before this point. Outside of that, though, I don't think it was that interesting. What I think worked the best was kind of Reese's whole musings on her being a vampire and the comparisons between her and Soldier and how being a vampire has affected each of them differently, and her kind of musings on saving people and and making sure that they don't just like leave people to be killed by vampires. I think that inner conflict with Reese was interesting. Outside of that, I thought the issue was just kind of okay, decent enough, and it was still well written. I think the dialogue was well written and everything. I just think it was kind of paced kind of slowly and not really much interesting, I feel like, happened in terms of the plot, which is kind of actually, I found to be a little bit strange considering that this is the same writer as Bloodhunt, and I think he's been doing a good job of kind of balancing his other books that he's writing that are tying into Bloodhunt with Bloodhunt and stuff. I feel like he's done a better job of kind of doing interesting tie-ins and showing interesting angles of the event in his other books, but I didn't feel that in this one as much. So I thought this was just kind of a decent enough issue, but not really kind of as good or as as linked in to the event in an interesting way that I was hoping would be the case.
Yeah. No, I think for the most part I agree. I really did like I liked as well the whole Reese inner conflict thing with she didn't really like she struggled with being a vampire at first, but it really struck her when she like really saw the death and she felt like what they were doing really wasn't mattering, like they were just letting people down anyway, like they weren't really saving people. That was until Yulon, that was until she came in and like basically like snapped her out of it by being an ass, really. Right. I understand Reese does not seem to like care for Yulon, at least. That's what I kind of got.
They have a bit of bad blood, yeah.
Yeah, so like basically that like snapped her out of it. Is like, no, we got to save people. Like that's our mission. That's what Moon Knight was doing, and that's what we're gonna do that in his memory, right?
Yeah.
And so that's when she decided to go back for that person that like didn't want to leave because they were also vampires or whatever.
Right.
And so I thought that was like, that was a very good plot point on that part. And also the fact that like we've truly saw like the amount of dead people in New York, like that one image was just like covered in blood. Like a lot of the other ones, we don't see that many bodies realistically, but that was a lot, like truly a lot of dead people. And so, we'll see how, like, realistically, I feel like this one is, like, because, like, usually in a lot of the other events, right, I feel like we don't see a lot of, like, just regular bystanders, like, truly dying.
Right.
And, like, this one, I'm, like, genuinely curious how the world realistically is just going to come back from, like, this much.
I'm sure the comics will mostly ignore that question.
I am wholly assuming. Genuinely, they never really look into that. But yeah, dude, that was like genuinely, I was like, damn, wow, yeah, we don't usually get to see this side of this, but like, that's a lot. It's a lot. And so besides that though, I thought the story for this one was actually pretty good. I didn't, like I said, I enjoyed the whole Reese like inner dilemma thing. Kind of sucks that 8-Ball wasn't in this one as much, honestly.
I know, I love 8-Ball. Yeah,
8-Ball's great, but overall,
but to be fair, he's a very, very, very supporting character for the most part in this run. It's rare he gets the spotlight, so I wasn't that surprised. Yeah.
But no. Overall though, I enjoyed this one as well. I enjoyed this one. It's good, pretty good. Yep. I'd give this a 7. Yeah, I'm
also giving it a 7. You actually might be able to jump on when the series relaunches with Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, that may be a decent place. I'm not entirely positive on that, but I think enough of the main stuff that's led up to this. If for no other reason, the fact that you've heard me talk about it a lot, and then also like how like Moon Knight comes back and everything. So you probably will be able to jump on there if you want to. I think. And then that would leave us with the next issue, which is not the final issue of the episode. Midnight Suns Bloodhunt number 2, written by Brian Hill, and the artist is Herman Peralta. Brian Hill has just been confirmed to be coming back and writing another Blade series, which I called like right at the end of that last Blade series. I fucking knew that was going to happen. But so anyway, this is issue 2 of 3 of this series. And now I can actually finally say as well, because I mentioned this last issue about how Black Panther was like a very important issue for the overall Bloodhunt event, because that gives you the origin of Varney, who we find out not so much in this one, but I think we do find out that definitively in the Blood Hunt number 4.
Yes.
And also it's mentioned in the like next time on Midnight Suns that Varney is the one possessing Blade. It's the first vampire possessing Blade. So yeah, this issue picks up from the last one where everybody's having nightmares about this one hospital in Chicago. And so they're like, well, this is weird. We're having the same nightmare. We should probably go and check this out. And so they do. And they have a fight with it's just a vampire in there, I think. It's really all there is.
It wasn't really a fight. Ghost Rider dragged them off.
Which was fucking awesome, by the way. Just gotta say, like, and the art looked great. That sequence, I was like, yeah, this is fucking sick as hell. Let's go. And then they're kind of talking to one of the hospital workers, and then who's saying that like the hospital has been like haunted for years or something. And then Blade busts in. They have a quick fight with Blade, and then Blade leaves. And then there's a fucking pentagram on the ground, and Lilith's about to do something, I think. Not Lilith, what's her name? Victoria Montesi is her name. Who, by the way, I think the art in this issue looks great. However, I could not for the life of me tell apart Tulip and Victoria in this issue.
No.
They were drawn quite similarly, and I could not tell who was who. So that's kind of the extent of the issue. I liked this issue. I don't think I liked it quite as much as the first issue in this tie-in. But I think particularly the sequence where Danny comes in and just fucking destroys that vampire was super cool. The art in the nightmare sequence as well, super cool. Like all of that was cool. I think the one thing I was a little bit iffy on was the Blade fight felt kind of out of nowhere, and I don't really understand why it's there and how it links into
100%.
Things. Like they mentioned that they're like, hey, well, he just wanted to distract us and take us away from this hospital. It's like, well, why? And he just shows up and he just kind of leaves like a page later. It just kind of felt weird to me. But other than that, I still think this is a solid series and one of the better tie-ins to the event so far. I think it's a very solid series. And again, this series is making me more excited for the next Brian Hill Blade series, when beforehand I was probably not going to even read it. So I do think this is a very solid tie-in series so far.
No, yeah, this one specifically, I mean, it didn't do too much for me, really, simply because, like, again, not really a lot happened, and, they just had the nightmare about the Chicago hospital. They went there. I will say that beginning sequence with the vampire and the nurse, and then, like, Danny coming in and, like, killing the vampire, like, that was definitely the best part of this issue for me.
Yeah, that was cool.
Just the way the vampire, like, basically cut open his face with like his hand to like split open his face to like just reveal like it like truly like a vampire-ish more. And then Danny just coming in, taking him away, and giving him the penance stare like the next page was just like, that was insanely good. And then Blade just super randomly just jumps in the window, says Blade's not here, and then fucking bat flies out. Like what the why? Like what the hell was that? Especially since like at one point he's in the Impossible City, like agonizing over the fact that Captain America, like Sam, is giving like this speech.
Right.
To him dropping the ginormous fucking Atlantean Tower in the middle of New York.
Yep.
To him, like literally going over there. Like when the fuck? Like is this like a random ass clone bat thing that he just sent to them? Like I don't. Yeah. Just super randomly, just like, all right, I'm gonna take this detour real quick, and then I'll come right back, boys. Like what the. Right. Super random. Made no sense whatsoever, besides the fact that they just have to link in the fact that Midnight Sun are going after Blade. Like that's like I feel like the only reason he was in there. Yeah. But besides that, really, like that's my like biggest problem with that, just Blade randomly showing up. Besides that, I didn't think this one was bad by any means. I think it was all right. It was still good, still all right. Wasn't bad. So yeah, I gave it a 7.
I'm giving this one an 8. I just really love how Ghost Rider is drawn in this, by the way. Like, it just the like imposing presence he's got, and the big fucking like thick bike pop through. I'm just like, hell yeah, this is sick. Some of the first Ghost Rider stuff I read was the 90s Ghost Rider stuff with Danny Ketch as Ghost Rider. So I've always had kind of a soft spot for him, and the big like thick bike is a staple. So it's just always really cool to see that drawn so well. So yeah. All right, next up we've got Blood Hunt number 4. This is the core issue of Blood Hunt. That is we both read the Red Band edition, and then for the creative team, it is Jed McKay on the writing and Pepe Larraz on the art. So this issue starts with Doctor Strange and Clea going to talk to Doctor Doom and being like, "Hey, we need your help. Yeah, we need to have you, help us out in getting rid of all this vampire thing, and also help us get back the sun." And so Doctor Doom is like, "Okay, I've recruited all of Strange Academy to help me. We can do this spell. We can cast it. I know how to get the sun back. But if we're gonna do that, you have to make me the Sorcerer Supreme. You have to give that power to me." So then we cut to T'Challa and Blade they're talking, and Blade is like, "I am Varney, the first vampire, and I'm gonna do a big ritual with this Atlantean temple that you have given me." And then we cut again to what is by far the best part of the issue, I think, and the only kind of so far, I think, actually consequential thing that's happened in this event so far. I'll get back to that. But Hunter's Moon and Tigra go with the help of the Wrecker from the Wrecking Crew, which, by the way, loved seeing him. I'm a big fan of the Wrecking Crew. They're like one of my favorite like B or C list villains in Marvel. I just think they're really fun. They go to Asgard, where Khonshu is being held, and it has been held for a while. And so because the Wrecker has an Asgardian crowbar, he's able to bust Khonshu out of there. And then, so, Blade is talking again with T'Challa about this ritual that he's going to do and everything. And then they look up and they see the moon is there and Khonshu is back. The moon is back. And not only that, but a whole host of dead Moon Knights, dead fists of Khonshu, and Mark Spector. I mean, we don't see his face, but it is presumably Mark. Mark is back. Moon Knight is back. The original Moon Knight is back. And they have a big fight with all the vampires. It's pretty cool. It's a big, bloody 2-page spread where they're all just like slicing through all the vampires and everything. And then it ends with T'Challa, who has seemingly been healed from the vampirism.
He's been
because
slowly healed. He's been the flower or whatever. The
heart-shaped herb, yeah.
Yes, that has been like ever since he got turned into a vampire. It's been slowly healing him. Like that's why he's been able to he's had some consciousness or whatever. And he basically tried to backstab Blade with a thorn that was stabbed inside of Thor, I believe.
Yep. And then, in so doing, Thor trying to get some energy back, and then the Avengers show up, and they're like, "We're gonna fucking kill you, Blade." And Blade's like, "Come and face the unliving Dark Force," because that's the other thing. He also absorbed a bunch of Dark Force into himself earlier.
That's right. That's his whole plan, is to become the Dark Force, or the dimension, channel the dimension into himself, or whatever.
Something, yeah. So, okay, a couple things with this. First of all, I liked it. I think it's good. I do like this event. It's going to sound like I don't like it the way I'm about to talk about it, but I do like this event. I just want to make that clear.
Okay.
So, first of all, right off the bat, I do think the reveal of Blade being possessed by Varney is a little bit underwhelming, because it's mostly just not even that I have a problem with it being Varney. It's just why build that up? Because most people do not know who Varney is. I didn't fucking know who Varney was. So this reveal is kind of nothing. Yeah. So there's that. That's one thing. Second of all, I think, first of all, I really liked the sequence where Moon Knight came back. That was very cool. Again, assuming it is Mark, but it probably is, because we know that Mark is coming back in his own series again soon. I think it's in October that starts, Moon Knight Fist of Khonshu. And also, there's an issue of Vengeance of the Moon Knight coming up where the synopsis says Moon Knight versus Moon Knight, and then the one after that, the issue after that, it just says classified in the solicitation. So presumably Mark is back. And I am actually excited for that. I think as an extension of Jed MacKay's Moon Knight run, this event is good. I like it, because I do think the way it's bringing Mark back, I like that. I think it's cool. I think it was a cool sequence, and also I think it does fit very well and very neatly within his Moon Knight run. But as an event for Marvel, I'm just starting to feel it feels kind of out of place, because I do think with something like Absolute Power, right? You had it where it was building up for 2 years in DC books, and so it feels very natural to go into that event. Bloodhunt kind of just popped up out of nowhere, and not only that, it doesn't feel like it's been that big of a deal for the Marvel Universe, with some exceptions here and there. We've seen some of the times, we're talking about in Moon Knight where, Reese goes out and just sees a street full of dead people. That is very much not the common thing in this series, in this event, though, because I feel outside of the first issue, I haven't felt much tension. The second issue ends with the Avengers just fucking destroying the Blood Coven, so immediately it's kind of the main thread of that first issue is gone already. The third issue was kind of just a middle expository chapter where nothing, not a whole lot happened. And then this issue is the triumphant return of Moon Knight and the Avengers are back. And so it's just it hasn't felt in the main event there's been much tension or stakes. It just kind of feels it's just kind of been a breeze since the first issue. All that being said, I do still like it. I'm excited actually more for the how this affects the Moon Knight run going forward than I am about the final issue of the event. But like the series is good. I think it's good. I think it's a good event. The core event is good. I like the art a lot. I think it's great. And the story stuff, like there's some cool, just like really great, like summer blockbustery kind of fun moments. But I think I think beyond that, I don't know how much there is to this event. It doesn't seem like it's going to have really much of an impact on the universe. We'll see with the next issue. And again, obviously it brought Moon Knight back, but like Moon Knight was going to come back anyway. These characters never stayed dead. So that was not really a question. So for me, it's like, I think the only thing I could potentially see being a big deal going forward is if Strange does give the Sorcerer Supreme title to Doctor Doom. That could actually shift the universe. Other than that, this kind of just seems like it was just kind of put there because Marvel wanted a summer event. I like it for what it is, but again, I don't think there's much depth to it beyond what is kind of seen on the surface level.
Okay. Yeah. I'll kind of remember the order you talked about in. So first, the Varney reveal. I also found it underwhelming. I think they could have handled it much better. Honestly, I think if we had, I think it would have been better, honestly, just going into this if we had known that Blade was already possessed by Varney.
I agree.
I think maybe in like the Blade series, they could have introduced him there, shown him end that series with Blade getting taken over by Varney, maybe also possibly creating the Blood Coven. I don't know. And then we go into this series already knowing all of that, and so seeing like obviously us knowing that Blade is possessed by an evil fucking like vampire lord. And then seeing him interact with, like, obviously going into Doctor Strange, seeing him, like, stab him there, like, oh, shit. Seeing him interact with, like, Miles for that little bit on the roof, being like, okay, something obviously happened to Miles. Like obviously we knew from the very first one that Blade was evil because, like, what he did to the Avengers and stuff like that. But, like, just all of that, like, I think it would have just honestly just ended up better. What else? Repercussions for the universe itself. I think, yeah, besides the whole what's Doctor Strange?
The Sorcerer Supreme.
Sorcerer Supreme. I was calling it Symbiote Supreme for some. That's the word that was coming in my mind. Besides that, I think, right, because obviously Blade has turned a couple people into vampires, and the only way for them to turn back was for Blade himself to die, I think. Right. That or Varney. I'm not too sure how that works, considering Varney is in Blade's body. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
So, like, at least two. I mean, obviously Miles and then Doctor Strange himself.
And T'Challa. But T'Challa's kind of on the way back.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Well, yeah, T'Challa's going to get healed, I think, just from the heart-shaped herb, so I don't think that...
Right.
But Miles and Doctor Strange themselves, unless there's like I don't think there's a spell, as far as I'm aware, because they would have done it at this point, I feel like.
Yeah.
Turn Strange
there's one
back
that kills them.
Yes. I don't know if there's one that just turns them back. So,
yeah.
At least a couple people are going to stay vampires. It seems. I'm not too sure how that...
Miles is, it seems, yeah.
Like, again, I'm not too sure if, like, they have to kill Blade or just Varney for them to go back. I'm not sure how that double body position would be working. The Avengers coming back, I mean, they're the Avengers. That's what they do. I could have sworn more of them got messed up. I swear only, like, Sam survived again. They only showed him surviving, but a lot more of them did.
Yeah, but we saw Carol and Tony also take down the Blood Coven, so...
And Vision.
And issue 2. And Vision, yeah.
Literally, only 2 of them got stuck up there, which was Thor and Scarlet Witch, which, arguably, they are the strongest, arguably, but still, I don't know. I felt like a lot more of them should have been out of commission, honestly, for it to feel more something from it.
Right.
What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Honestly, all I've got to say about that one. Overall, I am quite enjoying Blood Hunt, though. I will say I'm always scared with events, honestly. Just going into them,
because Night Terrors is the first one that we covered.
Not even because King in Black, while we were doing Night Terrors, I was also reading King in Black.
Yeah.
And that one definitely felt like that one always would keep you especially the core issues. Like people were just dying left and right, man. In that one, first it was Sentry just getting split in half after supposedly being the strongest being in MCU, and then fucking Eddie Brock dying every other issue. Honestly, it's just geez, man, come on. But yeah, this one just like you said doesn't feel like it has too many super heavy repercussions. But overall, I am enjoying this event. I think it's been pretty good. And this issue, I'll give it a 7.
I'm giving it an 8. I liked it. And that would lead us into the final issue of the episode, which is X-Men Blood Hunt Magik #1. So pretty simple on this one. It's written by Ashley Allen, and the artist is Jesus Hervas. So this was kind of surprising to me, actually. I quite like this. I think it's good.
Yeah.
And I like Magik as a character, so, you know, I do like the character that it's based around. But I have no fucking idea who Ashley Allen is. I have never heard of this writer before. So for me, there was some kind of, you know, whenever I see something like that, it's always like, well, how's this going to go? Because I kind of typically, you know, I kind of more, I trust, I have a certain amount of writers that I trust, and I'm like, this is going to be a good, you know, comic. And when I don't know who's writing, I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I like this one quite a bit. It starts out with, we get kind of this legend about this you know, famous, you know, incredibly powerful warrior named Ilya, and it was a tale that Magik's dad told her in Limbo and everything.
Yes.
And so we cut to Magik rescues these two kids from a bunch of vampires. They're part of this like vampire society where they've captured a bunch of humans, and then they send them out for like to go on these like hunts. So they will send the humans out, just essentially being like, hey, run away, humans, and then they'll try and hunt them down and kill them and you know, make it more of the thrill or whatever. So except these kids escaped before they were supposed to be hunted. So you know, the vampires get all pissed. Magik kind of saves them, but also kind of intentionally gets captured to go and see this town, this community of vampires. And so when she does, she kind of fully magics up, just kills a bunch of the vampires, and then runs into Ilya, the super big, you know, strong, great hero warrior guy who has also been turned into a vampire. And so she kills a bunch of the other vampires, sends the kids away, like tells them like, hey, hide here, don't move, I'll come get you when it's safe. So she kills a bunch of the vampires, and then goes in, has a big fight with Ilya, and then kills him ultimately. She does some portal hopping to get to him and decapitate him, and then everybody's all chill and everything. They all live happily ever after and all that good stuff. So just a really solid story, not like amazing, but like a fun little tie-in showing, you know, what Magik's doing, showing this other side of the vampire, you know, invasion, showing this weird vampire community where they're all like focused around hunting people for sport. Like, it was just a cool concept, cool setting.
Yeah.
And Magik is a cool character. I like Magik. I think she's kind of underused and an underappreciated member of the X-Men, but she's cool. Even though her power is not like amazing, I just think she's got a cool, like, fun, you know, personality and everything. I think she's a cool character.
Someone's limbo portals.
Yeah, but like it's essentially just like teleportation, but like through these glowing portals. I don't know. You can do some cool creative stuff with that, but generally, I don't think a lot of people do. She very often just kind of on the sideline. So it was cool to see her kind of spotlighted, and I quite like this one. Actually, this was like a very solid tie-in, I think. So yeah,
I enjoyed it a lot too. Honestly, for really not. I mean, it's a tie-in, so tie-ins are just supposed to, like you said, just show what really goes on in other parts of the world. And so this one, I mean, I'm not entirely too sure where exactly it took place. I'm assuming where she is from, which I think is Russia.
Probably. Yeah, Ilyana
last name.
Yeah.
You know?
And she's Colossus's sister, so.
Yeah. So I'm assuming, that's why I said I'm assuming Russia.
Yeah.
But overall, I don't know. Like, this one just felt very solid for me as well. Yeah. Just the storytelling, just like kind of like bringing it back, like introducing us basically to the main villain without really introducing us to the main villain, and then being like, oh yeah, Ilya is like, you know, there was a reason we told you this child story about Ilya. I thought they were going to relate it back to her since her name is like so similar to that,
right?
To Ilya. But no, it was just the fact that it was just like introducing us to like the hero that turned evil or whatever. And so, yeah, I mean, I know of Magik. Consider like this is like, I think my first time reading anything with her in it. But yeah. You know, I don't know. Is this the first time we've seen her in anything after the fall of Krakoa? Or whatever.
I would assume so. I'm not positive, but I don't know. Yeah, the fall of Krakoa was like a month ago, and we haven't seen her in any of the other Blood Hunt stuff. So I don't know where else she would be, because the new X-Men stuff starts in like when this episode goes up, it will have started the day after this episode drops. Yeah. So, but I think this is kind of the first place since then.
Yeah, and I know it does mention that like a reason why she wanted to save this city was because she couldn't save Krakoa or whatever. But I don't know. I felt this was very solid, very good tie-in, and I gave it an 8.
I gave it an 8 as well. And that will wrap up this monster of an episode as of the raw recording. This will not be the final length, but it's close to 3.5 hours.
Yes.
So Yeah, it's a long one, but regardless, thank you everybody for watching or listening as always. Next episode, we will be talking about the big one is, of course, the start proper of Absolute Power. So Absolute Power number 1 is next week. The next, the major DC event of this year. This is kind of what the DC universe has been building towards for like 2.5 years or so at this point. Maybe not 2.5, maybe like 1.5. But so yeah, we got that. There's also the next chapter of the Infinity Watch with Spider-Man and fighting overtime and everything. We also have Batman number 150, which is partially an Absolute Power time, but it's also got its own kind of story as well. Also got issues of Birds of Prey and an issue of Scarlet as well, and then Deadpool as well. And then more Bloodhunt stuff in Bloodhunters, Doctor Strange, Miles Morales, Werewolf by Night, and Psylocke. So anything on your end you would like to shout out?
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, well, yeah, as always, thank you everybody for watching or listening. If you are on YouTube, you can, of course, like the video if you enjoyed it. You can also subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more of our videos. And you can also hit the bell notification so that you get notified when we post new videos and do not miss any. You can also leave us a comment letting us know what some of your favorite comics are from the past little period and what some of the stuff that you've been really enjoying. If you want to get in contact with us, you can also do so at our email address, which is earthsmightiestcomicspod@gmail.com. That is all one word. And then you can also follow the show over on Spotify if you're listening over there as well so that you don't miss any episodes on Spotify. So yeah, as always, thank you everybody for listening or watching. We appreciate it, and we will see you in the next episode.